Guys, I am so stoked.
You already know what it is. Your boy got a shitbox 240.
So the reason I got this car, as opposed to like an SC300 or an IS300, is one, I wanted something new and fun. And two, this car has such a huge community and aftermarket support. Like you can go on a website and get tons of parts, body kits, you know, turbochargers, all that for pretty reasonable prices. Whereas like with the LS, good luck. I'm still going to be going absolutely crazy on this thing. Do not worry, I'm going to be posting very regularly with it, and I have a lot more plans for it. The body kit, the spoiler, and then one other extra thing that you guys don't know about yet. I tried looking up online where the jack points are, and it was like, don't do it here, it's going to crumple. Don't do it here, it's going to crumple. Oh, this point, yeah, that's don't. Like, try using the pinch weld. Don't do that! I'm going to put some cardboard here and maybe protect the pinch weld. God damn it, I always try to go slow. Okay, car boys and girls, let's get under this thing for the first time and inspect. That looks clean. That looks very clean, actually. It's got blueberry flavored axle boots. It's a nice aluminum radiator, some ISIS radiator tubes before they changed their name to ISR. Totally understand why they would do that. Some BC coilovers. That's gonna save me some money for sure. It's got a thick exhaust pipe. Looks like it's got some aftermarket bushings on it. Very nice. But before I can say anything else, let's drain this oil. Let's see how it looks. Let's see if I can finesse it out without. Ooh. I guess you could call me a pro. I worked at Jiffy Lube in high school. Do you know how you can tell if there's oil in a Land Rover? There's oil underneath it. Done so. The first time fed. Mobile One, please sponsor me. I'm addicted to drinking your oil. I love being hard around my homies. Nice little wasp nest. So the car's been sitting for 6 months, so I didn't expect the oil to be super clean, but what's good is it's not milky. I don't see any metal flakes, no grittiness. What are they doing, man? Anyway, okay. So this trunk has seen better days. The paint is faded, the clear coat is basically gone. Because I plan on doing a kooky conversion on this car, the rear bumper, fenders, hood, and front bumper are all going to be replaced. So what I'm going to do to practice painting is just touch the hood today. So what I'm going to do first is remove the trunk, get it nice and clean, remove all the little doodads and bits that don't need to get painted. Boo, 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 boo. All right. Very easy, very nice. Now it is time to take it off and give it a good power wash. All right. The trunk is all prepped, ready for primer. The Lexus is covered in wet sanding splatter. Of course, the battery is dead because I don't drive this thing as much as I should, but I wanted to show you guys under the hood real quick. I spent ages cleaning and scrubbing and replacing little worn parts here and there. It doesn't leak a drop of oil. The same amount of work and attention to detail and just OCD crazy stuff. Ignore the side marker light. Those like to fly off on the highway. The 240 is going to get that same attention, and I'm just really excited to document the build and show you guys. Spoiler, 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 spoiler for the LS400. I want to practice on the 240, because that's the reason I got the 240, is because I won't feel as bad as if I mess things up. I can still fix them, but I won't feel as bad. All right, we're getting close, just setting up this paint booth idea that I had. Time to just give it a quick wipe down with the wax and grease remover, and then we're gonna hit it with the tack cloth.
I thought I was recording when I was spraying the trunk, but it doesn't really matter because it looks like absolute garbage.
I'm not too thrilled with how it looks. I can say I did a pretty bad job. I mean, it's just primer and I'm gonna sand it down. Felt like it would be really easy, but it's very clear now why this sort of thing costs so much money for somebody to do professionally. Like it's very difficult.
Part 2 of taking my Nissan S14 from this dusty, doughy little guy to this handsome beast.
All right, so it's the next day. The trunk, the primer is completely dry. I wanted to give it overnight. After my melodramatic breakdown when the primer came out orange peely and simultaneously grainy, I hit it with 320 and 400, and the finish is very, very nice. So now it's time. Since I'm painting in my garage and the Georgia heat is insane right now, I'm using a slow reducer. It says AJ4 Scarlet, but this is actually the factory Ultra Red. Ooh, black. Status update, it looks like ass. There's a lot of scratches I can see through the base. The paint is beginning to level out a bit more, but you can see just how gnarly these scratches are that I didn't refine further down. We're sanding right now, trying to bring the scratches out of the primer. Maybe I'm just being dumb. Maybe if I laid on some more base, it would have filled them. I was using 400 grit, but what I think is the pad was gunking up and creating these little specks, and those specks were making those deeper scratches, I think. Got some more goodies. Back home we go. Fun fact, the paint shop is located right next to the first Waffle House ever. The panel has been brought back down. With the 400, it's very smooth. I looked very, very up close to look for any imperfections or deep scratches. So the air water separator just broke. I just loaded the gun up with all this expensive paint. Everything is ready. So my roommate's about to give me a quick drive to the Home Depot and we're gonna get that. The gun just kept sputtering and sputtering. You know, it just goes boop, 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 boop. So I took it apart, cleaned it 2 times. I replaced the water trap 2 times, and it still just kept going and going and going and stuttering and sputtering. Don't land on the paint, don't land on the paint. Yo.
Here's the trunk after a quick wet sand. Tomorrow I'm gonna buy some more base, give it another coat or so, and then hopefully we'll be able to move on to clear. What's up, big slimes? This is part 3 of my Nissan S14 build. What I'm trying to do is take this car and turn it into something more like this. I've been learning how to do all the paint and bodywork myself, and it has absolutely sucked. I'm laying on clear for the first time, so let's see how it turns out.
The finish is pretty good. I'd give it a B+. Definitely good for a first timer. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait a few days for it to really harden, and then I'm gonna go ahead and wet sand it and polish it. As you can see up close, there's some dust nibs and a load of orange peel. I'm gonna be using this Torx polisher and pairing it with a 3M interface pad for this sandpaper. I also have differing levels of compounds and polishes and some polishing discs as well. So the 1500 grit has been applied, and you can just see how stupid I am. Burn through, burn through, burn through. Being actually totally honest with you, I sanded through that before I hit it with the base. I was like, I don't want to have to re-prime this whole thing, and I absolutely should have, because now that decision is coming around to bite me in the butt because the base and the clear did not stick, and it just flew right off. This stuff kind of smells like those cinnamon brooms that you get during the fall. All right, it actually looks worse than when I started. I think I need to continue sanding it and redo the polishing process. It's the next day. I tried wet sanding over and over again, and I'm leaving such deep scratches. I'm clearly doing something wrong. I did 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500. I buffed it out, and it's still leaving these pretty heinous scratches. Also, I've burned through here and there. I've burned through here and here as well, and here. I feel like I've removed too much of the clear coat at this point with the repeated wet sanding, so now what I'm gonna do is restart the process. There goes all that hard work.
All right, back to square one. First layer of primer is on. Overall, the process was a lot easier getting it on. The finish of the actual primer, despite me being able to sand it, looks great. And I feel like a reason a lot of the primer kept coming off is I wasn't really coating the underside. I feel like the fact that it wasn't wrapping it around the edge is what was allowing it to fail so easily.
Part 4 of taking my S14 from this to this. I got a ton of bodywork done today, and now I'm removing all the glass and trim to keep the ball rolling for paint. All right, I'm in the car now. Door's closed, it's raining, as always. Getting close to getting this rear quarter window out. It's got some give now. So I peeled this weather stripping back, which I know I need to be very careful with because they've discontinued it. And I'm gonna take these screws out using this very average size screwdriver. I've been able to remove all the plastic trim without breaking a single piece, which is awesome. Right when I close my eyes, I dig into the rubber, of course. Oh, shit. Ah! Oh, yes! Hell yeah! I'd like to take a moment to thank everybody who has been commenting such nice words of encouragement and just awesome advice. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. It kind of reminds me of old forum posts when people would actually help each other instead of just hiding wheel specs.
All right, we got the wire snaked through that hole I burnt. Now it's time to start sewing this one off. The one's already good to go. Oh. For the trunk, I still want to paint it first, but it turns out I'm going to have to fill the holes left from the previous spoiler to accommodate the wing I just ordered. Next, I've decided that I'm going to leave the windshield in, but I'm going to take off this little seal here so that the paint can go underneath and I can just lay it over and have a nice clean look. Hello everyone, today is part 5 of the Nissan S14 build series. Right now we're stripping apart more pieces of the car and getting everything prepped for paint. Check it out. It looks like some old Sony Explode speakers. Kind of like the Walmart special. I don't know about you guys, but this seems broken. Like maybe like a little tack weld popped out on the other side. Yes! Didn't break it. There's nothing worse than breaking plastic clips. And I broke it, Ha ha ha. Yay! Yay! Oh, I'm so sad.
Whoa, look at all that speaker wire. What the hell? Look how long this is. Boom, boom, boom. Luckily, a couple of my friends were in town working on a music video, so they helped me remove the door without me trying to do it myself and having it land on the ground and explode and dent and have me farting and pissing and shitting on the ground, crying and dying. Listen, Sylvia. All right, and we're gonna put it in the living room to piss everybody off. We're gonna piss everybody. The door is off, and I'm not gonna lie, it's looking pretty sick. I have all the trim and pieces boxed up, and the hardware in these cups. I'm gonna transfer them over to some sealed lids container, and make sure I don't lose anything. But that's it for today. Tomorrow, fenders, and maybe even the hood in the front bumper. We shall see. So people ask me what I do to pay for these car builds, and I actually own an advertising agency and work in film. I started off working in production design, so in between directing gigs, I like to pick up work as a set dresser because it helps me afford these car builds. Here we are at a prop rental house right now. These places are really cool because you can basically get anything you want for your film set. Atlanta is the film capital of the entire world right now, so chances are, for your favorite show, one of these props probably played. You want a school desk? Well, what kind? You need Humvees and military trucks? They got those too. The wicker basket? Well, whatever wicker basket you want is here. Garbage can? What type? Need ride-on horses? What type? You need some military cases? They have those for sure. Cannot stress this enough, these places are massive. Production design is the area of film that puts together all the props and furniture and all the little bits that you see on the big screen. Alright guys, we're back to work on the S14, and today we're going to be going to Marietta, Georgia to pick up a few big things for the build. Look where I am!
My name is Gray, aka Hot Boy Gray. This is Karu Works.
Wow!
Yeah! Tyler, the owner's S13. It's got a Tomei 2.2 SR in it. It's really fucking fast. Doesn't run though.
Oh.
Saps, E46, Strict OG. If you know, you know. If you don't, leave us alone. Greg's, our service managers, S13, SR, Sandra's, 180SX. It's got the Blitz 03s, the hype wheels.
Whoa! Worth 20 grand.
Instant 1 million views right there. And we got customer, super right here. Nice little 1J in it.
Oh, swag
I
out.
think it makes it around 400 horsepower, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, makes all the good noises. This is one of our Tex car Ryan's who's out of town. This is his super, super rare TRD spec 8.6. It's like one of like 30, I think. So it's got like a full OEM roll cage, full fire suppression, all from Toyota.
What?
Yeah, so Rutledge would race this in the Celebrity Racing Series at, not Irwindale, Long Beach.
Oh.
Long Beach, yeah. Ooh. But this is getting some pretty cool.
Whoa.
Big old LS in it. I'm not sure what the specs are on it, but it should be making around 500 when he's done with it. This is Bastian's S14. K-swapping it for quite a long time now. It was SR for a little bit, but he switched it up. So this is supposed to...
Some big anime titties.
Yeah.
That's hot, dude.
Huge anime guy.
That's hot.
Yeah.
So how'd you get this job? I mean, I feel like this is a lot of people's dream job.
So TikTok, actually. I started posting on TikTok. Like, yo, I do social media design stuff. Like, can I just like come intern here for a little bit? And the internship just turned into a job.
Here's my boy Gray, Hot Boy Gray, helping me pick out the right body kit for the car. About to for the kit and the fenders.
We're looking at
500,000 Robux. Unacceptable. I have a barter for you.
Okay, let's see what it is.
One 10mm socket.
I'll add cash on top for this. I'll add cash. I can do $500 the kit, the fenders for this.
Check this out.
extension too. What do you guys think?
Yeah, they're Snap-on. Are they Snap-on? Pittsburgh. They're Pittsburgh.
Damn it! I've been found out. Fuck. God. The guys at Koru Works were so nice. The space was just super cool, and they had such an awesome selection of parts. If you're in Georgia or just shopping online, I definitely recommend you check them out. Now I'm going to unwrap the kit, fit it on the car, make any necessary adjustments, and I'm also going to be showing you some other cool things I got for the build. In the meantime, please make sure to like and follow so you don't miss it, and give the guys at Koru Works a follow as well because they were just a tremendous help in all of this. Oh my fucking god! I've made an incredibly upsetting discovery about the S14. Do you see how much Bondo that is? Do you see how deep it goes? Do you see this? Do you see how deep this goes? That's a lot of fucking Bondo. I think I'm fucked. I'm actually at a loss for words. Like, I saw Bondo and I kept sanding and it kept going and going and going and I just felt sicker and sicker and sicker. Alright, status update. It looks pretty bad. This is a hole that somebody had drilled, as well as this one and this one, to help bend the panel back into shape. One of the thickest pieces, which is really unacceptable. Makes me just want to light the car on fire, it really does. And I feel like that's a common thing that people go through when they're working on a project car. It's like, oh my god, I just want to dump gasoline all over this godforsaken thing and just watch it burn, but I'm too far in, you know? I'm too far in, I gotta keep going. Thinking about cutting out the rear quarter here and welding in a new one, but I don't know how to weld. So this looks to be mainly cosmetic damage. It is a bummer though.
Hello everyone, today I'm attempting to save my Nissan S14 from the grasps of shitbox hell. If you haven't seen my last video, please check it out, and you can see the astronomical amount of Bondo that was in the driver's side rear quarter, as well as the rocker panel. I haven't tried metalwork before, but I'm giving it a shot, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, we got this guy cut out, this one is in, this guy is in. I made it 2 pieces because I cut it short. I hope this works. The welder is about to show up to my house. I decided to go pick up some weld-through primer, some acetone, clean up the panel even more, cover every little square inch. I also picked up some more fiberglass. Let's get it. I'm excited. Do you think we're going to be able to get swagged out?
Huh?
You think we're going to be able to get swagged out?
What do you mean?
True or false?
What?
Bitches be shitting.
Bitches be shitting, bro.
Oh, God.
Bro, look.
No!
Bitches be shitting.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
In one of my last videos, you guys saw that this little dampener or whatever, it's not one of the hinges. This guy broke off. I attached some zip ties to it because if it fell in, I'd be pretty shit out of luck. All right, it's been tacked in. Time to grind it down and get it looking pretty. Since there's a harness here, I didn't want to burn through it, so I got this rag, lightly wet it, wrung it out, and placed it along the back side. So everything should be good. Sir, thank you.
No problem, bro.
Can I drink this?
Open.
I've been hard at work getting my S14 project back on track after discovering a ton of Bondo in the driver's side rear quarter, but I'm not going to let that stop me from fulfilling my full vision from the car, so let's see how it's going.
I've been using this ruler to gauge how straight the panel is, because luckily this panel lays flat all the way down, so it's a good reference. You can see this area down here is the biggest problem. It's pretty deep. I'm gonna have to keep working it. Here we go. Some of that good stuff. Let's see how it goes. We've got 2 layers of the long strand fiberglass laid down. The biggest challenge is going to be matching this door gap.
We are currently at this point with the rear quarter. I used a stud welder and a hammer from the inside to pull it out as much as I could, cleaned it up real nice, and put long hair fiberglass on top. To get this edge right here for the door just right, I used 3M Platinum Plus filler. I still need to do a touch up here. I'm still considering replacing the entire rear quarter, but it feels solid. I continued with the Bondo removal here, and it doesn't look too pretty. You can see how wavy it is. You can see here how it kind of goes straight, and then it bubbles in a little bit. Everything underneath the car looks good. The floor pan is not wrinkled. But with this section, it's just going to need to be bent ever so slightly. Everything lines up in terms of the door gap. I still need to do some fine tuning. This looks clean. This bar on the inside, I've taken everything out. Looks clean. It's all within spec. I've measured against that side. But this rocker is just not in good enough shape. It just doesn't meet my standards really, or really probably any sane person's standards. So we're going to section here, pull it, use these 2 access holes right here, put a metal plate against it, bolt it, and then once this area is opened up, pull it, replace with a clean section from a parts car, weld it in, do a little bit of body work and fiberglass over the welds, and we'll be back on the road. We'll be back getting this thing where it needs to be. It's looking good. It might look like there's quite a bit of Bondo on this, but I feathered the edge around, so that's what you're seeing there. The metal is all there.
This is Mr. Steve, the owner of Deja Vu Garage, a Nissan S chassis parts yard that he runs out of his house in the quaint little town of Winder, Georgia. And I've got to say, the selection was great because I found just what I needed, a driver's side rocker panel. As S chassis cars continue to become more valuable and rare, and with Nissan discontinuing OEM parts, it's great that people like Steve can continue to keep these cars on the road, except for this guy and his god-awful sticker. I'm glad this car ended up the way it did. That sticker is horrible. A Sawzall made quick work of the rocker panel, and now it's time to bring it home. I also picked up a passenger side airbag and an airbag control module since the ones in my car had already gone off prior to me purchasing it. Now let's see if I can actually get this thing on. We shall see. I'll admit it, I messed up big time installing the quarter glass on the S14, but luckily the other side has not been done yet, so I'm going to take y'all's words of advice and scuff up the surface. I'm using a little red Scotch-Brite here and going, ee-er, ee-er. You already know what I'm talking about. After that, wipe it down, wipe me down, thank you sir. Then we're going to throat this thing. Looks good. We're going to put some primer on, which I did not use before. Yeah, I really didn't do anything right last time, but luckily, y'all, my friends, my confidants are helping me out here. And of course, I'm peeling off 2 layers of tint on this donor glass because it's a 240SX. What do you expect? Gonna clean her up real good with some soapy water. Yes, sir. And this little piece is loose, so I'm gonna put some adhesive on there and tack it down. Now, the next step. Oh, also I put some primer on this side. Next step is we're gonna cut a little V-notch in here like y'all recommended. There's this glass tech in the comments who just laid out everything I needed to do. We have this nice little thick, massive V channel thing, and I got this little guy from Harbor Freight because I wanted to be extra. And it's sunk in so nice. It's definitely a lot better than the other side. Uh-oh, SpaghettiO, it's time to work on my Japanese shit box. Today we're gonna be addressing the rear wheel well on the passenger side. Ew! Brr. We're gonna put some soap on that joint, a little bit of brushing action, and all the poop water is coming out, so we're gonna spray it out with a little hose, and then we're gonna use a little wire brush, go brazy with it, if you will. If you don't want to, that's fine. Some seam sealer, you know, why not double up on what's there from the factory? Add a little bit of protection, double bag it, if you will. Smear it with your finger. And then we're going to put some Reform and Seal in case there's any residual rust. Roll that on.
In my opinion, better than spraying. Nice and thick, and you don't have to mask off a lot of areas. So we're going to go... Then we're going to tape off this little section here. This is where the rear bumper is going to mount. So why not give even more protection? Scuff it up. Put the poop batter on it. And yeah, peel that off. What a satisfying tape line. Oh, finally all the wheel wells are done. Shit. This car sucks. Actually, it's pronounced Koki, not Kooky. Here's a hamburger. Hello, my beautiful bouncing baby molecules. We're back to work on the S14, focusing on the passenger side. We're going to start by screwing down that A-pillar trim that I sprayed with the SEM trim black. Since it's always raining in Atlanta, I got lots of weather stripping to choose from all the other shells. So we're going to scrub her down with some soapy water, and look at that. Beautiful and clean. We're going to squeeze her in there. Yes, sir. Beep, beep, boop. Look at that. A little bit of dry spray there, so I'm going to wet sand it and polish her out. Door jams on flee. Then we're going to put this piece of black licorice here, and then we're going to put this piece of black licorice here because we want ants all over this car. Here's the door close sensor, and we're going to screw it down with all that hardware we painted black. Check it out, a new latch with the rubber, baby. Let's see if Planet Fitness is going to pay off, and if I can finesse this door in myself. Holy smokes. Boom. Tying her down, boy. Wait, do you guys hear that? Bonswa! Where have you been? I'm starving. I've been lost for so long. I know you've been lost. Let me cook you something. You have to tell us about where you were. I need to show you the blueprints. The blueprints? Okay, so basically, bonswa is a molecule. He's at this stage right now. But if we keep nurturing him and feeding him, he's gonna turn into Son Bon. Holy hell, I almost went blind working on my S14. You see that smoke? That's boiling brake fluid from me not properly grounding when welding. You see it squirting out right when I took my welding helmet off. That could have been so damn bad. I'm trying to get this bolt out for where the fender mounts at the bottom, and I welded a nut to it and finally got it out. You can see all my other past attempts here. So let's go ahead and throw the wheel and tire on the car so we can get it on the ground. So, always wear your safety gear, and if you're new to welding like me, just make sure you're grounded properly. Now we gotta address the thread holes, so I'm gonna re-tap it, spray some WD-40 in there, and I don't have a T-handle, so I'm just gonna use this little wrench. And look at that! Yeah. Oh, moment of truth. Let's put this sucker on and tighten all that new titanium hardware from Z-Spec Design. Bada bing, bada boochie. And look how thick the front end looks. We got to put the rear over on to match that. And I got a little exciting video coming up for that too. What's up, molecules? Today we're going to be putting the over fender on the passenger side of the S14. So I got everything cleaned up and ceramic coated. Now I'm going to start wet sanding the over fender with some 1500 and then 3000 grit. And then polish her out. And look at that. Beep, 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 beep. So some of you guys are recommending I use a gasket material between the over fender and the car itself, and I agree. So I picked this 1/16 of an inch neoprene material off of Amazon. This stuff is sticky on one side, but it doesn't really like to bend around corners, so I had to make a ton of little pie cuts, and I think it turned out pretty well. But, you know, now we have another issue, which is the mounting holes are covered, but I made quick work of that with a little soldering iron and burnt them out. And also I wore a respirator because it was stinky. Now it's time to put this jaunt on, baby. We're gonna be using some delicious Z-Spec Design hardware, and things have gone awry. The mounting holes, well, basically all of them, no longer want to line up, so there goes an hour and a half of work. I should have selected a material with a lot more give, but you know, it is what it is. So I threw the over fender on anyway, ceramic coated it, and now let's go ahead and see how it looks with that wheel on too. Woo! I let her ride in my S14, it was every man's dream, but then all of a sudden she started farting and all I could do was cream. Oh baby, this is the first time all four wheels have been on the car. What's in here? Whoa! What's up, molecules? We're back to work on the S14. You can see some of these trunk clips that hold the harness are broken, as well as some of the tape is a little ratty. So we're gonna rewrap it with some harness tape. Buongiorno, much better. Then we're gonna cut off all those old clips, and I got some new ones off of Amazon. ASMR. We're gonna clip off the excess, and then we're gonna go ahead and start attaching it to all the factory mounting points. This part of the harness supplies power to the third brake light, the tail lights, as well as this latch.
That don't sound good.
Seems like these holes are chock full of paint, so we're gonna spray some WD-40 in there and put a little chasing bit in using this above average size wrench. And look at that, goes in nice and easy. And now for the moment of truth. I think the new weather stripping and stoppers need some time to settle, which is why there's this gap. But let's go ahead and restore this third brake light now. Hello molecules, we're back to work on the passenger side of the S14, and you can see this huge collection of spare parts I've accumulated from all the other shells. We're going to be putting in the passenger side window today, and this one has the least amount of scratches, but it also doesn't have the hardware. Luckily the other one does. So we're going to put a nut on it so we're not just grabbing it by the threads, and then we're going to use these snap ring pliers to pull it off. Buongiorno, it worked beautifully. Now let's go ahead and pull the tint off the window we selected, and in classic 240 fashion, it has multiple layers of tint. We're going to put some soap on it and scrub it with some steel wool, and it's looking much better. Then we're going to put the hardware on and tighten her down. Just like the other side we worked on, this window track had all the weather stripping dry rotted off, so we're going to refresh it with some door edge trim and some foam tape so that when the window is rolled down, it's just not going to rattle all around. When the window rolled down, it rattled all around. This screw right here is stripped out, but luckily I have a spare part, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it off. Look at that, garbage. And we're going to put the new one on. Beautiful. This is also the part that holds the side mirror, so we got to make sure it's base boosted and secure. I already cleaned off the window motor and all these tracks, so let's go ahead and put some fresh grease on them so they operate smoothly. Then we're going to drop our greasy piece of metal in there, drop the window, which, you know, luckily didn't break, and then wrestle it in. Now it's time to put the ridiculously expensive discontinued trim on and roll her up using a power probe, because y'all roasted me last time when I snipped the wires, so this is the appropriate way. It took me the entire day to install these door handles on my S14, which sounds bizarre because they're just door handles, but I wanted to restore this little piece of black trim, but there's a pin going through it like a rivet, so I had to cut here and go snip, 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 and pull it off. Once it was off, I used some 220 grit to remove any deep imperfections and then finish it off with a red Scotch-Brite. As always, SEM trim black, and as I'm spraying it, it's flying all around, so I decided to hold it with my hand. But it's looking brand new, geez Louise. But then I realized, wait a minute, the key doesn't work. So I called up a bunch of locksmiths, and this guy said, meet me at this location, I'll do it half off. And it was a personal trainer's office, so I waited around until he pulled up in this Toyota Sienna minivan, and he cut the key, and as you guys can see, look at the difference. This is supposed to be the same key, and it unlocks it beautifully. By now, the trim piece is ready to put on, and then I also have this little keyhole doodad that I repainted that I should have put on first, so I had to pull it back and slide that in. And it's looking so good! Oh man. So we're gonna put the lock in place, and this is when stuff really starts to hit the fan. I put it in, and as I'm tightening it, the thread just rips out of the door handle. So I went to Home Depot and picked up this bolt with the same thread size and cut off the head of it, re-tapped the hole, and then I mixed up some good old JB Weld plastic bond and shoved it in that hole. I packed that sucker and put it in, but I couldn't get a good grip on it, so I put two nuts on it and sort of, this is like a technique, I guess, to like put it in, and it worked. It did its job. Look at that, solid. So then I put it in, tightened her down, and look at that. It looks perfect. All in a day's work. What the crap is up, molecules? We're back to work on the S14, and today we're going to be addressing some orange peel and some waviness in the hood, but that's all right because we're going to be doing some wet sanding, a cut and buff, if you will. You know, since I'm a super cool bad boy, I like to use a 3-inch orbital with an interface pad and a 3-inch Kovacs disc, and I always start off with 1500. Some people might say, well, you're wasting your time, start off with 800 or 1000. But I don't have that much experience wet sanding, and having a finer grit reduces the risk of burning through. You can see after multiple passes, I'm just beginning to bring down the peaks of the peel, and a couple more and it's nice and even. Now this white amalgamation you see is the clear coat that you've sanded, and if you're not careful and you don't wipe it away enough, it can turn into these little balls that create these deep scratches called pigtails, so you want to avoid that. But I'm fluffing up my microfiber and adding some caulk chemicals, heavy grit, polish. I like to take my sweet ass time when I'm polishing and think about every single thing I've done wrong in my life and let it let it make me tweak the fuck out. After that, we're gonna wipe it down like BOOSIEBADAZZ. That's me wiping it down. I directed a little Boosie music video once, and it turned out pretty bad. But you know, the budget was garbage. But his kids were on set, and they were tossing footballs around and almost knocking down $5,000 lights. But what the hell can you do with Boosie? You can't tell him what to do. And then you gotta feed bonswa because, you know, he needs to grow into Sanbon. You guys remember the blueprints he brought back when he was gone for a while, but it's looking really good. Next order of business to get this thing on is we gotta clean up these hood hinges and the latch as well. We gotta get these looking brand new. Bonjour molecules. Yesterday we did a cut and buff on the hood of the S14, but before we throw it on, let's address these crusty, dusty, musty hood hinges. Yucky. So we're gonna go ahead and pick up a new angle grinder from Harbor Freight and some wire wheels. And of course, we're picking up a face shield because we're not taking any chances with our little eyeballs, because we're gonna be going crazy, taking off all this pitting and rust and oxidation, doing our best to strip these down to bare metal. I also got some goggles underneath the face shield too, because I'm serious, y'all. You only got one pair of ojos. But look how efficient it is at taking all that paint off. Beautiful. And then this happens. And then you gotta sit there and think, like, how could I be so silly? How could I be such a buffoon? You're gonna let it marinate for a while and then get back to work, because everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. But look at that. Gorgeous. I'm using this weld-through primer that's rich in zinc, so it should prevent any future rust, and it's also the only thing I have. I know there's gonna be some people that are gonna be pulling their hair out just screaming because I used weld-through primer instead of like a self-etch. And all I gotta say is, have you eaten a kiwi lately? Because they are so tart and delicious, and if you just ate a kiwi, you'd probably feel a lot better. So let's get the hood on. What's up, molecules? We did a cut and buff on the hood and got the hinges looking brand new. But before we put it on, let's pay attention to those windshield wipers, baby. As always, we're gonna blast it with a little bit of soap and give her the scrub-a-dub-dub. Boop, boop. Hardware 2. God damn, boy, this looking much better. And of course, Z-Specs and all new hardware. But we gotta get the sticker off the motor, a little bit of WD-40, and it's looking buongiorno. Then we're gonna play a little game of insertions. Slide. We're gonna put that sucker in there and tighten that hardware down. Yes, sir. This whole car is nothing but 10 and 12 millimeter bolts. So there's this little cover thing. Don't know what it does, but it's looking a bit dusty, so I repainted it black. And then we're gonna be putting some of this little gasket thingy, squishy material on it. Oh my goodness, look how much bonswa has grown. I can't wait till he turns into Sanbon, but we must get back to work. If you guys are trying to turn your swag on with some dress-up hardware, head over to zspecdesign.com and at checkout, enter the code TRIST10 for 10% off of your order. They got everything. Look, even the hood hinges get their own new hardware. No dusty, crusty bolts on this car. No, sir. Now we're going to head over and pick up the windshield, baby. Wow. So I had this wonderful idea to try and install the windshield on my 240 by myself. And spoiler alert, it did not go well. Because I was calling around in some places and they were like, it's going to be about $500. I was like, geez Louise, I can do that. So I picked up the windshield for like $100. Abraded the surface, laid on some primer, and things were going swimmingly. I got my nice selection of OEM expensive trim. But then I was missing a piece, and I drove all the way to Z1, and they weren't picking up the phone. They were about to close, but I got there in the nick of time and put it on. And it turns out I actually did have the piece. It was just behind my toolbox. But that's just the beginning of the shit show. I cut a nice little V-notch in here, laid on that goop nice and thick. Oh God, and I kept just, laying that sucker on, and things were going so Gucci. I felt good about myself, I was vibing. And then my roommate George helped me carry the windshield on with these Harbor Freight suction cups that kept failing and slipping. And I plopped it on there and let out a little battle cry, but I was soon punished for my hubris because the windshield was not at the correct level. It needed much thicker application, it needed to be spaced out, and the trim was not sitting on the glass, so I was truly tweaking the fuck out. And then I just lost it and just pulled the windshield off. I was like, I have to redo all this. And the adhesive is just brutal. It gets everywhere. It got all over the paint. It felt damn near impossible to remove. I was up till 3 a.m. and I braided it back down to bare metal, which I shouldn't have, but I was losing my mind. So just pay somebody to do it. Eventually I got it right, but I didn't record it because I was losing my fucking mind, dude.
Oh my God.
That's right, molecules. I picked up a BN Sports Type 4 body kit for the S14 and I wasted no time mocking it up. And I'm so in love with the way it looks. Oh my god, it's so angular and just badass. But there's one big problem. You see these holes? What are those from? Well, I had a KBD body kit before, and because it's so wiggly, you gotta kind of hard mount it. And I was a big dum-dum and put some rib nuts. The problem is that the Oberfender lined up exactly with the KBD rear bumper, and now it doesn't. The BN Sports is a bit shorter, so these rivet holes are now visible, which is misery. So I'm going to grind them out, find a way to fill them, and repaint the area so it looks more like a seamless transition. And there was a guy in the comments who was absolutely roasting me for mounting the KBD kit that way. And ultimately he was right, but I still don't like him because he's a big meanie and he kind of talks like a sociopath. Yeah, Bonswa is eating some steak now. He's getting really big. Oh my god. Bonjour molecules. As you guys know, the BN Sports kit came in for the S14 and I'm thrilled, but the rib nuts are now visible that held the KBD bumper on prior. So let's go ahead and grind them out and sand the area down. Then we're going to pick up a new Dremel and some sheet metal and head over to my favorite paint shop, pick up some sanding blocks, some paper, and some touch-up paint, which you can get mixed in a can. I'm going to start off by cutting out these little squares as backing metal for the holes. Now what you can do is use a piece of brass on the back side and the weld won't stick to that and just fill it in, but I decided to use a backing material this time around. And I'm using some compressed air and a wet rag to keep the surface cool and minimize warping. And ground down, it looks pretty good. This piece I had to cut a bit larger because of some clearance issues I was having by the wheel well and the magnet holding it in place. So I covered it in some weld through primer, and now while that dries, let's mix up some 3M Platinum Plus and put it over the welds. Now that our big piece is dry, we're gonna slide it in, zap it, and blow it. Grind it down, and put the body filler on. Now with everything blocked down, we can get to blending the paint in, hopefully. My fellow molecules, these BN side skirts have been an absolute nightmare trying to get them to fit on the S14. I have some Cleco clamps in place because we're doing some hidden hardware. So all the hardware for the kit is either going to be in the door jamb or the wheel well. And you can see I'm putting in a rib nut, wet with some zinc-based paint so you can avoid any rust. Typically, when you're doing a build like this, you would want to paint the body kit alongside the car instead of painting the car and then fitting the body kit up. So I'm using a lot of painter's tape because I did not do that. A common problem with S14 side skirts is that this little lip is going to hit the door. So what do you do first? Well, you sand as much as the little boy can, and that's actually how fast my hand moves, and get that fiberglass uncomfortably thin. And as you can see, it's still hitting the door. So this little piece right here is not molded correctly. It's not sitting flush to the door jamb. And as a result, when I close the door, it twists the side skirt up. And I'm thinking that that's causing a bit of the problem. So we're gonna cut that piece off. And for this rib nut right here, I am going to put some grease down. This is from the previous body kit. Tap, tap, tap. And the peak of the grease is where I'm gonna make my drill hole. So now the side skirt is nice and sturdy against the body. Even after all this, I still had to adjust the door hinges, which helped marginally, but you guys are gonna hate this. I had to grind down the lip of the door, making sure not to cut into the metal too far and expose the fold. And even after that, still tolerance problems. So after that, I had to shave the side skirt down so much that I had to back it with some long hair. Jeez. But now at least they fit. In this section, now let's go ahead and throw the front fenders on so we can adjust the tolerances at the front of the skirt. We're going to pull that wheel off so we can start making our drill holes. And as you can see, the door in this area is flush against the skirt, which is no good because we have to add high fill primer and all sorts of stuff. But if you bend the side skirt down a little bit, it opens up that gap. So we're going to keep it held in this position so that we can have a door that can open and close without the damn side skirt paint being ripped off. Have you molecules ever noticed the sort of big wavy side skirts on S chassis? That's just because the molds are sort of worn out and uneven, and you gotta block them out and put filler on them. And today, that's what we're gonna be doing. So to start off with, we're gonna be using this dry guide coat and this little UFO. Zoom. And we're gonna be smearing it all over and blocking the gel coat down as much as we can. Unfortunately, these side skirts are too wavy to rely on just the gel coat to make them even, so we're gonna clean them off, scrub them down with some soapy water, and we're going to be spraying on this Slick Sand, a polyester primer surfacer. This stuff is like spray-on body filler. It's way thicker than high fill primer. It's just nuts. So I picked up this new 2.0 gun. I should have got a 2.5. We mixed that sucker up. If your paint shop can shake it for you, oh my god, Jesus. And it's 100 to 2. Isn't that crazy? So we're gonna be putting 32 ounces in this jaunt. We're gonna strain her out and put the whole bottle of sauce in there, and that's gonna give us that 100 to 2. And you can see the chemical reaction is bubbling and fizzing, but I don't recommend eating it. No, sir. Don't eat it, man. I got these disposable paint guns from Harbor Freight because this stuff hardens super fast, and it is just wild. You gotta get super close, 75% overlap. This isn't like spraying primer or paint. It's okay if you get runs. The whole point is to just lay on as much material as you can. And it is thick. And as you can see, Bonswa is hanging out in a little bowl of grapes, and he's got a bottle cap hat. And I'm very excited for him to grow into Sanbon. It will be a day to remember. But I blocked out the side skirt after the stuff dried, and it's still a bit wavy. It's got some low spots, but you can see how uneven it was to begin with. So we're back to spraying that goo on, and in total we have 6 coats on this thing. And now we're going to put some guide coat on and block it again. And for our final blocking, we're actually going to put it on the car, because the side skirt is going to bend and twist in a certain manner to conform to the body, and we want to make sure everything is as even as possible. Yes, sir. Thank you. Goodbye. Hello, molecules. I made it a goal to have the S14's BN Sports bumper painted by the end of this 4th of July weekend, and here's how it went. We're going to start off with wiping me down, and after that, we're going to mix up some of the super high build polyester spray-on body filler. And I laid it on thick, because unfortunately this bumper was just as wavy as the side skirts we were working on earlier, and in total it took 7 coats to make this thing level. After that, we're going to sit back and watch paint dry, my favorite pastime activity, and we're going to think about why we're alone on this 4th of July weekend. After our first blocking, the high spots are coming out, but it's still feeling pretty wavy. So, you know what we got to do? We got to add 3 more coats. Yes, sir. So it's the next day. We're laying down some tape, blocking all that dry guide coat off in a 45-degree motion, and keeping those body lines nice and crispy. Yes, sir. And of course, my good friend Bonswa is eating a delicious steak and sweet potato dinner that I made him. And one of my viewers actually saw me at Starbucks, and they sent me this video. Isn't that cool? Yes, sir. So, we got to address this cavitation between the gel coat and the fiberglass. This is an issue that happens during the manufacturing process when the gel coat and the fiberglass aren't sitting right up against each other. So we're going to scrape them out, blow them out, and fill them with some short hair fiberglass. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited to see Bonswa turn into Sanbon. And possibly, I might even make some figurines so that you can have him in your life as well. This area at the top, I ran out of the short hair fiberglass, so now I'm just adding some of that 3M filler. And this isn't a flexible area, so hopefully it won't break. But this little piece right here, I was ignoring it till just the moment before I had to go to the paint shop. So instead of laying fiberglass like I should, I sort of backed it with some of this long hair fiberglass and put the filler at the top to sort of hide the blemish. Now it's wrapped up in a monkey blanket, and we got it at the paint booth, so make sure to like and follow to see those results, baby. Whoa! What's up, molecules? We're back to work on the 240. As you guys remember, the BN Sports bumper didn't line up exactly with the over fender, and the rib nuts were visible that held the KBD bumper on. So we went ahead and ground those out, cut some metal, welded it in, mixed up some body filler, and smeared that sucker on. Now we're masking out the car so we can paint the area. We're starting off with a delicious little batch of sealer, and we're going to tack cloth the area to get rid of any fuzzy bits. Going to double strain it and start off with the corners. Now, by no means am I a professional painter, but I've watched enough Paint Society videos to know that my fan is way too wide and I'm laying on way too much material. So it is what it is. There's some orange peel in the sealer. Sorry. If only I could go back in time. But we have this red, beautiful Porsche Carmen red, and we're going to lay that on. Same sort of thing as before. Fan's way too wide, way too much material's laying on. Orange peel. Whatever, man. My heart is broken. It's fine. We're going to clean out the gun. Yes, sir. And then we're going to move on to that clear coat. I haven't painted too many things, but laying down clear is my favorite part. I feel like it's the step I'm the best at. In total, I laid down 4 coats. The area that's going to be visible is that 1-inch gap between the over fender and the rear bumper. So I'm going to wet sand that out and make it look nice and pretty and flat. Now, I'm sure some of you are like, what about that tape line, dude? Isn't that going to look absolutely brutal? And the answer is, you are 110% correct. It is absolutely brutal, but this area is going to be beneath the over fender, and I'm going to reduce the lip on it with some wet sanding as well. So it is what it is, I guess. Gee Willikers, it took a long time to get this BN Sports bumper ready for paint, but we're finally in the booth with my boy Brad, and he's laying down some pipe, and by pipe I mean sealer, on this bumper, and good Lord Almighty, it feels good to get this thing one color again, and with that gloss, man, I can understand why people like Nardo Gray. Now he's laying on that Porsche Carmine Red, and boy, I'm falling in love. And now for my favorite part, the clear coat. Oh, I'm having way too good of a time looking at this process. But I want you guys to know, there was somebody who gave me a tip on TikTok. Like the first time I've ever gotten a tip on TikTok, and his username is shot_luck. Thank you so much, man. You get a Sanbon figure when they come out.
What would you like to eat today, bonswa? Steak, please. Okay, I can get you some steak. Okay. I need to show you the blueprints. You already showed me the blueprints. There's a new one.
When Bonswa transforms into Sanbon, he's going to have this hot little red Miata, and he's not going to understand what money is. Hello, molecules. Today we're putting some taillights on the S14, but first let's unmask it from that little paint job we did on the rear quarter. And once we throw the over fender on, you can see that it blends quite seamlessly, so I'm happy. Now let's go ahead and open up our overnight parts from Japan. Yes, sir. And see what we're working with. I decided to go with some D-Max taillights. There's not really many aftermarket options for these cars, and you can go with the OEM taillights, the Koki ones, which I do prefer quite a bit, but they're usually a bit too expensive and they're cracked and brittle. But here's another problem. The key is not working on the trunk because this trunk is actually from my first shell. So we're going to go ahead and score the paint so it doesn't rip out. And I found the correct cylinder that's going to match the key for the ignition. So we're going to pull it out, put the new one in, and now we don't need to use two keys to open and close this car. Boop. Now let's go ahead and put the center section in. It just snaps in place, and there's 3 or 4 bolts that you need to tighten down. But here we go, drum roll please. Bop. That doesn't look that, that actually looks pretty fleet. That looks pretty swaggy. That looks pretty fire. That looks 100. What's up, molecules? We're headed to my favorite S14 parts guy, Christopher Bragg, in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, and he always has an inventory of clapped out S14s to strip parts from. Mr. Bragg is a very interesting character. He has a thick country accent. He's this middle-aged white dude, and he's obsessed with these Japanese shitboxes, which I think is really cool. Whenever we meet up, he gives me like relationship advice, and we chew the fat and just have boy time. Good old boy time. But recently he picked up this new Koki, and it's pretty clean.
Hidden gem of the world.
And it's an automatic, which is even, and people go, oh, it's an automatic. It is probably the only one left.
What color is it called?
Deep fuchsia.
Ooh. Whoa. Are you going to keep it?
Yes, I am. We're going to restore this.
You're going to restore it?
Yes, we are. This is the next restore.
So I can't strip parts off of it?
No, you can't have these goofy parts, no.
Why you gotta be like that?
Like I said, it's a time capsule.
It's good to have friends that have a shared obsession with these tin cans. I love it. Hello, molecules. We're back to work on the S14, and as you can see, I've moved. Got a bigger garage. It's got room for the LS400 now, and the BN Sports bumper came out amazing from paint, so let's go ahead and throw it on. But first, we need to take this tag light off of this old bumper and put it on the new one. But as you can see, it's doo-doo. So we're gonna put it in my little vaporwave sink, scrub-a-dub-dub, and as you can see, it looks better. Now the mounting holes on the bumper ain't big enough, so we're gonna drill them out. But luckily they're pre-drilled from the BN, so this should be quite an easy job. We're gonna tighten that in, and it looks decent. I'm just worried about how much light is actually going to show on the license plate, but I digress. It is now time to put some rib nuts in this little rear bumper mounting area, put some zinc-based paint on to prevent any rust, and we're going to squeeze those nuts in. I love squeezing nuts. We're going to wipe it down with some wax and grease remover, and in total, we're going to put 4 rib nuts in the back. Yes, sir. Now, for the wheel well, where the corners of the bumper are going to mount, I use these nylon little dudes. They taste pretty good, too. And you're going to have to take the wheel off to do the full installation. So these little nylon doodads snap right into the factory mounting holes. And then we're going to very carefully put this bumper on. Holy crab. Got to be very careful. Don't want to scratch anything. And of course, we're going to be using some delicious, nutritious Z-Spec design hardware. And look how smoothly it goes in. Bobby Smooth Johnson. Wow. Look at that. It's beautiful. And then we're going to figure out that those nylon nuts in the wheel well weren't the right size, and we're going to spend $35 at O'Reilly figuring it out. But look at that. Bonswa is so happy in the new house, but we must get back to work. It's been too long. We're going to tighten that wheel down, and let's see it when it drops its booty on the ground.
Lord have mercy. Oh!
I agree. Anyways, I'm going to be shooting a commercial in LA this week, so if there's anybody out there that wants to link and build, let me know. Yes, sir. Hello, molecules. I've been building my dream car, this S14, over the past year. And today is a huge day for the build because the side skirts came back from paint dripping wet, Aquafina wet. So let's get the car jacked off. This cutout for the exhaust works great for fitting the jack under there. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do when I have a muffler, but we shall see. Now, since the BN Sports kit came in after the car was painted, mocking it up left some damage, even though I laid down a ton of painter's tape. But anyway, we're going to drill out some holes for the rib nuts, sand her down, and we're going to be laying this delicious, nutritious, zinc-based rubberized undercoating. And as you can see, I could never seal a can correctly. So we're going to smear that poop batter on. Oh my goodness, Bonswa is eating some chicken and peppers. What a swell little guy, I love him. Soon enough, he will grow into San Bon, but let's get back to work. We're going to be putting these rib nuts in animal style. And I think I might want to get a little bit too crazy on this top one, because after I unthreaded it and tried to thread in the hardware, I bumped into an issue.
God damn it, man. Shit.
Sometimes when you go too animal style on a rib nut, you can mess up the threads. And when you're trying to put the hardware in, well, it can spin the rib nut if it catches. And then the rib nut is effectively useless and you gotta drill it out. So we're gonna go ahead and get the threads looking nice and squeaky clean. Yes, sir. And it works like a charm. The next item on the agenda is these rib nuts that were left over from mounting the KBD kit, and this little area right here where we had to shave down the door to fit the side skirts. We'll get to that door later, but for now, let's fill these with some heavy-bodied seam sealer. You don't have to waste a lot of time masking the area off because it, wipes clean with some wax and grease remover. Look at that. Wow. Yes, sir. Now we're working on the front of the car. The fender needs to have some rib nuts placed in it as well, and we're going to try and not go so animal style on these. But right away, as I started compressing them...
Oh, I hear cracking. Nope. Fuck that.
So I'm not going to compress them all the way. I'm just going to have them snug, and it should do the job. And now for the moment of truth. We're going to put those side skirts on, and the amount of hours and work it took to make these things straight because they were so wavy before. And we're doing hidden hardware this time around, and they are just going to look so seamless and pretty on this car. 7 bolts in total, yes sir. And now it's time for the moment of truth. Are you ready? Let's put the wheel on. Oh my goodness. This thing is...
What's up, molecules? We're back to work on the 240.
And we have quite a delicious spread today. We have some clear corners for all you JDM hot boys. We have this JDM grill. Ooh, and we have these knockoff headlights. You want to know why? Because eggs are $5 a dozen now. Shit is too expensive, man. You got to cut corners somewhere. Give me a break. So we're going to place the headlight onto the fender. It goes in with these 2 bolts. And then there's 2 other bolts that attach it to the radiator support the long way. After that, we're going to put these nuts on the end here, and we're going to try and wriggle this clear corner in, and it's giving us an absolute hell of a time. But here's the reason. There's this little notch right here, and it matches up to this little doodad on the fender, so I'm going to try and clearance it out with this Dremel. And I'd say it did quite the hell of a job. Now, we're going to use some amazing Z-Spec design titanium hardware to put the fender on because I like to neglect the driver's side of the car. And you can get 10% off of your order on zspecdesign.com by entering the code TRIST10. Wow! So after we wrestle this sucker in, there's a single screw at the top that attaches this corner light to the headlight itself. And it goes in like... Oh my god, Bonswa is eating some salmon and greens. What a healthy little lad. And now, to put on the grill, it snaps in with these tabs that, are basically permanent. If you ever try to remove it, they're going to explode. But here we go.
Because I am telling you right now, that motherfucker is not real.
That's cool. Anyway, so this is where the hood emblem is going to go. Should I get the Nissan one or the Sylvia one? I know people will be like, is that Sylvia?
So you guys know those super satisfying videos where people add their clothes to a bathtub and they put detergent and all sorts of stuff and the water turns like this nasty color? Well, we're doing that today with an inflatable pool, a ton of detergent, and we're gonna be putting this rat, piss, shit, and fart infested carpet in it and seeing how nasty the water turns. Man, that shit looks delicious. Apparently you have to remove the crash bar, defrost, basically every single thing under here, which is to get the carpet out. Stop, please stop. Stop farting. Okay.
Play the game of will you remember where everything
No.
goes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, look how much poop is in it. It smells bad. We're gonna have it smelling good, but right now it smells like shit, dude. It's time to get this thing out. As you can see, we have some good stuff. Sea bass, sweetie bass. Oh. Fuck! There he goes. There he goes. Aquatic swab. Oh, he's just like his daddy. Small nipples. It's about to be a mud hole. That's a lot. Bonswa! What the fuck? Get out of there, dude. You serious? It appears the water has already become a murky color. We're gonna be leaving this overnight. I'm anticipating like swamp level filth. Bro, look already. Just a river of slime. Look at, ugh. A delicious soup of 30 years of piss and poop.
What's up, molecules? As you guys know, the carpet in my S14 smelled absolutely horrible from the rat infestation, so I went ahead and picked up this kiddie pool, aired it up, and we added the carpet to the mix. Next, we're gonna add in a delicious medley of fine chemicals and detergents, and after just a few minutes, the water is quite boo-boo in color. Slime language, if you will. If you will. So it's been 3 days and it rains every single day in Atlanta, so the water became diluted, but I digress. We're gonna start off by adding some dish detergent, and then after that, we're gonna whip out the drill brush. Yes, and we're gonna go because that's what it sounds like. Now we're gonna whip out the pressure washer, which I had to buy new because the last two ones I had broke, so we're switching to Harbor Freight because you know those don't break. And we're just gonna go absolutely brazy on this carpet. I'm gonna do multiple passes until that water is absolutely clear. And after a good 30 minutes of pressure washing both sides of the carpet, it now no longer smells like boo-boo. It is clean, free of stains, and I'm so excited to spill a venti iced coffee all over it. Hi molecules, today we're going to be dyeing the carpet on my S14. A lot of you guys recommended it and I think it would be a good idea. So I got this back to black kit, it's RIT dye, and it is jet black as opposed to regular black. Now the regular black dye tends to lean a bit more green, so I'm hoping we don't have that problem with the jet black, but we're going to go ahead and get it clean since it's been sitting in the sun for a few days drying. And these little hard bits, I'm using this razor that hasn't been used anywhere else to buzz them off. Now we're going to boil up some water, pour it in the apparatus, and start making our witch's brew. Plug! Now we're gonna start spraying it on, and good Lord have mercy, this stuff is working great. It's evening out the color and making this carpet look as good as it can. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking why I don't just buy a new carpet. And the answer to that is the aftermarket options just don't have that factory fit. They're baggy, they're loose, they kind of bunch up, and they smell like formaldehyde. So we're gonna try and get this as good as we can get it. Now I'm taking a rubber bristle brush and really massaging that dye deep into the carpet's fibers. And then after that, I just decided to go crazy. You know, I started saturating the living hell out of the carpet, because if I'm dyeing it, I might as well dye it, you feel me? And we got that water superheated so that it can get deep into those fibers. But now I have it hung up, it's looking great, it's even, it's pretty, it's beautiful. But now I gotta kind of deal with the fact that I dyed my driveway like a dum-dum. Howdy molecules, today we're going to be painting the headliner on my S14. Now as you guys know, this car was infested with rats and they got beneath the headliner as well, so we got to make sure this thing is nice and spick and spazan. We can't do the same approach as soaking it like we did the carpet, because it's got this cardboard layer beneath. So we're going to use some boiling water and put it in a tornador. I'm testing it out on my wheels on my Tacoma to make sure not too much water comes out, but let's get this thing clean. As you can see by my spinning contraption, it's doing quite a good job getting the funk out. And we're gonna wipe me down with some rubbing alcohol as well. Now that it's all clean, let's go to AutoZone and pick up some vinyl and fabric paint. A lot of people have been using this stuff, their carpets included. And the reason I didn't use this on my carpet is it can get crunchy, and not just that, it's a coating after all, so it will get scuffed off with your shoes and just tossing stuff in the car. But an area like the headliner, I don't think will get too much wear. But if you've done it on your carpet and you love it, hell yeah, I'm glad that you're working on your car, and I hope it lasts very long for you. But now I'm just brushing the fibers in different directions so I can get as best coverage I can get. And we're just gonna keep on doing it. Now this is the last coat. I'm doing it further away so you can try and minimize the striping. And here's the final result. I don't think it looks too bad. Not perfect, but definitely an improvement. Bye. How much is it going to cost to replace all the front end suspension on my S14? Let's find out, shall we? First off are the tension rods. Oh my god. Between the manufacturers of Voodoo, ISR, and SPL, the average total is $282. We're going to be keeping the factory sway bar but powder coating it, so maybe about 50 bucks. In terms of the sway bar end links, I'm thinking about going GK Tech, so about $54 there. For the sway bar bushings, gonna go with Energy. Those are $18.95. The steering rack is gonna be one from an S13 made by KFab, and if you change out the inner tie rods, you're all good to use on the S14. We're gonna keep the factory lower control arms, but the bushings will come out to $24.71, and powder coat maybe another 50 bucks. For a full set of brand new hubs and bearings, $320.76. We're gonna keep the factory knuckle but powder coat them, so maybe add another 50. Rofu Z32 front rotors, those are gonna be $117. Rofu Z32 calipers, $270. And for the brake lines, also Rofu, those are gonna be $58.50. We're gonna replace these braces with the power brace, so $400. And for the subframe, powder coat black, another $50. And for 2 ball joints, about 60 bucks. Now, of course, we gotta feed bonswa, and that's another $5. Love him! Oh, baby Belle. I dyed this S14 carpet. And it's leaking. Don't worry, we're back on our bullshit. Boil up some water, mix up some more dye, and we'll put another layer on this jaunt. Yes, sir. According to my calculations, we did not use this RIT color stay additive. So while the carpet is still wet with the dye, we're going to heavily saturate it. This fine concoction will help the dye lock in, but not before we blast out any excess. Yes, sir. As the squid ink cascades down and drips into the detritus below, we are left with a slightly lighter carpet. But now, buongiorno. When I am rolling around on the carpet in a white tee or in some white Air Force Ones, I do not have to worry, for this carpet will not transfer onto my clothing or shoes. And then I must feed my son a delicious feast. Go!
Oh, no!
Sometimes a project does not go according to plan, and these side mirrors were absolutely no exception. On the left is the painted mirror, but it doesn't have the glass, and when I pulled the glass out, I broke the internal mechanism for the power window. These unpainted donor mirrors are from one of the other shells, so I tried pulling the clips off to the motor and yanking on them and broke them off. I'm gonna have to extend the wires and, you know, solder them up because I removed a lot of the wire from pulling on it. And then I was like, this is ugly as hell, so I drove out to the country to my boy Christopher Bragg and picked up another set of donor mirrors, and he gave me some advice. So the wire on the back is not going to be able to come out of the housing. It's soldered after the fact, so you have to snip it and then resolder it later on. I was like, you know, groovy, so I pulled everything apart and got the mirror out without breaking everything. Like, this plastic is so old and brittle, it just explodes when you try to pry on it, but luckily I was able to get it out. So now all we got to do is just, you know, undo the screws and transfer all of this over to the painted housing, and we're done. But that is just simply not the case. My dumbass, after putting the windshield on, that whole debacle, let this adhesive dry on there because I didn't notice it. So I tried rubbing alcohol, I tried Goo Gone, I even tried soaking it in Goo Gone, and then ultimately I was like, all right, I'll whip out the friction wheel, which was a horrible idea because it just took a chunk of paint off. And you know, after you mess up, you just get really pissed off and you just keep going because at that point you don't really care. Well, I just kept going. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use this friction wheel and just tear all this paint off because I'm so pissed. So these are gonna have to get repainted, or I'm just gonna have to go with an aftermarket option, but Ganadors are like $100,000. What the crap is up, molecules? It's day 426 of restoring my dream S14, and today we're tackling the sunroof's little door thingy. We are going to shave off any fuzzy bits and clean her off because the rats got behind this thing too. Those pesky varmints sure did a number on this car, but we're going to hit the top with some of the shoe cleaner because if it's good enough for my New Balances, it's good enough for my car. And then we're going to hit the top with some of this Duplicolor vinyl and fabric.
Shit, look at that.
Egads, it's not sticking to the plastic because we did not prep it. So this little hand grab, we're going to clean off with some spray gun cleaner. After that, we're going to sand her down, use her blower out, and then hit it with some waxing grease remover. Now it's ready for paint. In total, it's going to get 3 coats in alternating directions, and in between each coat, we're going to brush the fabric so we have even coverage. Now look at that. It's beautiful! Albeit a bit crunchy, but the backside we need to take care of. When you're looking through the sunroof, you're going to be able to see this, so I bought some felt from Joann's Fabrics. That's my baby mama. And we're going to cut it to size. Once we've made all our little snips, we're going to whip out some of this 3M contact adhesive. Yes, sir. And we're going to lay it on thick. We don't want this piece of felt going anywhere when the sunroof is sliding back and forth. Then we're going to realize we're fumigating ourselves and desperately try to open the windows and then pick up the respirator. Why didn't you do it in the garage, silly? I don't know. Maybe it's because I want to have a craft room. How about that? Oh, no, bonswa!
Bonswa, what are you doing?
Oh my god, we gotta get you out of here.
I got him out in the nick of time before the fumes really got to him. But we're going to lay this thing on, press it down, smooth her out, and let me tell you, it looks great. I'm super happy with the way it turned out. Yes, sir. Hello, molecules. Over the past year, I've been building my dream S14. We got the exterior looking good, but now let's focus on the interior. Why did I wait so long to do this? I'm silly. This seems to be the last rat's nest. This car was sitting in a field for some time, and it's delicious and funky, and I love it. Let's get it out of here. We are going to steam every single surface of this car, get rid of all the schmutz and bacteria and the fungus among us. There once was a lad who had an S14. It was full of rat shit, so he made it clean with a vacuum cleaner and a little bit of steam. This boy will turn this car into his dream. That was cool. That was so sick. We're going to wipe it down with some purple power, scrub it. Oof. And just like that, the floor is still dirty. Let's keep going. I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the back seat, you know, kissing girls. So got to make sure everything's nice and tidy back here as well. If you're going to be doing the KK slide with this car, got to make sure that e-brake is clean. Now, here's some bullshit. In classic S chassis fashion, there's just a ton of wires that just go to like an alarm system, subwoofers, all sorts of stuff. But thank God they didn't hack up the harness too much. Now we're going to hit the firewall with a little Tornador and get all the schmutz out. And God almighty, look at this thing. It smells good. It looks good. Now let's get some dry ice and get this sound deadening out, shall we? And after a hard day of work, Bonswa gets a little turkey sandwich. Thank you, Bonswa. Attention molecules, today is an exciting day because we're dropping the rear subframe and doing a full teardown. It's going to get powder coated, new arms, bushings, the whole 9 yards. But first we got to get it out of the damn car. We're going to remove the e-brake and any brake lines, the coilovers. This coilover almost hit the over fender on its way down, so I had a little moment of silence. But we must keep going, we must. We're going to remove these bolts holding the subframe brace and this nut. I like to keep my impact on a low setting because it makes me feel like I'm using a jackhammer. Like I'm actually doing something. But there's only 4 nuts in total holding this thing to the car. And it's pretty crazy how simple cars can be sometimes, and then it cascades forwards and almost obliterates the side skirt. But let's go ahead and drag this behemoth out from underneath the car, and let me tell you, it is crusty, dusty, and musty like me. And these bushings, 8 out of 10. But then suddenly I just got hit with this wave of nostalgia and this longing to be with my mom at the mall, at Barnes & Noble, like smelling the Starbucks coffee in the air and begging her to get a toy because I claim that it's educational when it's really not. Every S-chassis owner owns a 36mm chrome socket from AutoZone because I'm not trying to drive all the way to Harbor Freight or Tractor Supply and get the right impact one, alright? So give me a break. Yeah, the threads were absolutely toast. I'm gonna have to get a new nut as well. Now we're gonna separate the axle from the differential, also known as the pumpkin. I like how the old timers came up with so many cute names for car parts. Makes you mad, huh, when you're hyper masculine. It's like, yo, bro, put it on the pumpkin. Oh, damn, that's not a cool enough word, man. Why can't we call it the skull? Speaking of cute words for parts, y'all absolutely flamed me for using the pickle bar wrong. So here I am using it the right way. Thank you for the advice, but after 300 comments, it got a little tiring. Now we're gonna go ahead and pull the arms and the knuckle off. I still don't know which arms I'm gonna get. Maybe Voodoo, SPL, ISR. Maybe one of these companies can give some to me for free. I don't know. Just little me with some arms. But yeah, here it is all laid out. Not bad for a day's of work. Not bad. Today was a tough day working on the Project S14 molecules. Suspension bushings were nightmarish. Holy guacamole. Let me tell you, this car was sitting in a field for God knows how long, so everything is just fused to itself. Yes, I did try pushing them out, but ultimately they all had to get burnt out, baby. And God, it stunk so good. Smelled so bad. Smelled like shit. Smelled like shit. Yeah, it smelled like shit. Yeah. Also, the rapper Silento, the guy that made that whippin' nay-nay dance, look up what he did. Anyways, we got this ball joint service kit from Harbor Freight, and it made pretty quick work of the ball joints. And yes, I did try using it on the bushings as well, and it did not work. Those things were fused. Oh, go bonswa, go bonswa, go bonswa. But I must make a molecular request. If you guys haven't already, please make sure to like and follow. I'd love to continue doing more of these builds in the future, and with your support, I think we can make that happen. But I'm thinking about getting all this powder coated like Nismo silver, and here's all the bushings from today. We still got to work on the crash bar, disassemble the stuff off of that, powder coat that as well. Same goes for the rear subframe, and we got to burn those bushings out, and they are looking pretty roached. Today absolutely sucked working on the S14. Yesterday I burnt the bushings out, and some of you guys recommended I use a drill for the rear subframe, and that worked great, so thank you for that advice. But the sleeves are still in there, so I picked up an air hammer and a chisel and a sawzall and tried cutting the sleeves out and then chiseling them out. And they would not budge on any of the arms. I tried it on the subframe, then I had this lower front control arm. I cut the sleeve in half and tried pushing it out, and it just is not working. Ultimately, I feel like I'm doing more damage to the arms themselves, but at least bonswa is keeping me company because this is just misery. Any advice, please? I don't know what to do.
Bonswa? Bonswa, you're gonna get hit by a fucking car! Holy shit. No. I don't fucking... He just started rolling down the driveway, and then he just kept going and going, and I chased him for as long as I could, but he just disappeared. I couldn't find him.
There are bugs under my skin, and I'm gonna get them out. There are bugs under my skin, and I'm gonna get them out. How's it going, molecules? We're back to work on the suspension of the S14. We still gotta get the sleeves out, so I picked up this 12-ton shop press from Harbor Freight and threw it together. Initially, I thought this would be a good idea, but really only 2 parts actually fit in the press.
It worked! It popped it! Oh, thank God.
The front lower control arms and 1 bushing each for the rear knuckles.
Gotta get that socket out.
So I don't really know if it was a worthy purchase, but it was satisfying to use at least. The ball joint press was really the star of the show.
It's done. This one is done. Oh, yeah.
Put that tongue away, player. Anyway, the rear lower control arms were the absolute hardest. I cut down this socket the size to fit in the ball joint press, but because of the shape of it, it kept slipping out. So I used some map gas and PB Blaster. It still wouldn't budge, so I tried using a Sawzall to cut the sleeve and went too far and ruined the arm, so I got to pick up a used one from Christopher Bragg. Luckily, the other arm was easy. The shop press, unfortunately, did not work on the rear subframe, so I burnt out the remainder of the schmutz. And thank goodness, only 2 of the 4 bushings in the rear have a sleeve, so I just cleaned out those. And for the ones with the sleeves, I used a Sawzall to cut them into 4s. And then I chiseled them out with an air hammer. Yes, sir. Calm down. Yes, everything is gonna get powder coated in Ismo Silver. And bonswa is still missing, and yes, I'm in the cut. Yes, I'm in the hood looking for him, okay?
Bill Gates doesn't have Ganondorf, Steve Jobs doesn't have Ganondorf, but I do. Sort of.
These are the highest quality Ganondorf Super Mirror replicas that you can buy, and they're made by Kabuki Tech. The original Ganondorf Super Mirror was released in 1997, but they stopped production in 2010, meaning all the prices of these mirrors have gone up to like $2,000. But I ain't paying for that shit. Just like the real deal, these Kabuki Tech mirrors have a cast aluminum base. They have a really high quality resin mirror housing. They're powered, they can fold, they have the blue tinted lens.
The accuracy is on a molecular level. Look, very little, if any, gap between the body and the mirror. High quality resin.
And new weather stripping, baby.
Would I buy replica wheels like those Reagan Masters on eBay? I know you guys know which ones I'm talking about. No, because it's a safety thing and I don't want them exploding while I'm showing off in a Walmart parking lot. But would I buy a quality replica Ganondorf mirror from Kabuki Tech? Absolutely. People that don't understand the value of a high quality replica are the same people that don't eat at Chinese buffets. And I love a Chinese buffet, and I'm not a little snob.
You already know what it is. Molecules have always had this fantasy of going to an exhaust shop or getting an alignment done, and the tech says, "You got a nice undercarriage, boy." So that's why I'm spending 4 days and 3 of these wire brushes you'll see here in a second, just tearing them down, and these little shards got stuck everywhere and they're still in my laundry. Had to make a sandwich to refuel, and Bonswa would have really liked it, and his scrub daddy reminds me of him too, but we must keep going, we must. Time to pressure wash every single surface and get soaking wet. How miserable,
but necessary.
And after some wax and grease remover, the remedy. This remedy is filled with a bunch of delicious nutrients like zinc that prevent rust and future corrosion. What stood out to me with this shell was that the frame rails and the pinch welds were unusually straight, which is very uncommon with these cars. You hear that? That's what good frame sounds like, yes sir. And after 3 cans, take a gander at my handiwork. Ooh, Lord, I'm neurotic. I'm a little wacky, I'm a little crazy. Oh my goodness.
Tonight, I was vibing in my garage at a frequency once thought impossible, when suddenly, a light in the distance caught my eye.
What the hell is this? Bonswa! A package from Bonswa, guys! That means he's alive! He's in the portal in the Nevada desert. Oh my god, Bonswa's alive! Holy shit! Thank God he's alive. But perhaps this is a prank. A hashtag prank from schemers and hooligans. Who's to know that the real Bonswa sent this? What could it be? What? Say it isn't so. Whoa. I'm truly feeling a wave of emotions right now. I'm glad that he's okay. I'm glad that he's alive. I thank him for his gifts. But truly nothing replaces his presence.
For dinner, I had some vegetables and chicken. Hey, put that thing away. Listen, today's project on the S14 is going to be super satisfying. I've always wanted to incorporate the undercoating into like the engine bay, like just where the transmission tunnel starts. So first things first, we got to get everything clean. We're going to apply some soapy water, and then once everything looks nice and creamy, we're going to wipe me down. Do you like how I work on my car? Do you like how I squirt from afar? Do you like how all the water goes to the back of my garage and how I gotta squeegee it out? Whoa. Things are looking clean, so it's time to slide underneath the car and get to work with this precision tape. This area is full of ridges and curves and mountains, so we must use this precision tape to get a nice crispy lineup. And then we're gonna back it with some regular masking tape and take a gander. We're ready like spaghetti. Psych, we need to actually prep the area first with some 180 grit. Yeah, and then we're going to wipe it down with some wax and grease remover. Ah yes, and now it is time to apply the remedy. The remedy is filled with so many good nutrients like zinc that help prevent rust and future corrosion. When I was in kindergarten, I shit my pants so hard right at the end of the school day. When I sat down, it slid out the back of my waistband and landed on the floor. So then I picked it up with my bare hand and opened up the front of my pants and put it at the front of my pants to hide it. And then I went to the back of the classroom where the sink was, and I washed my hands over everybody's art supplies, so those had to be thrown away. And it was horrible. And of course everybody saw it, but I acted like it didn't happen. We're going to touch up any problem areas with some wax and grease remover and take a gander, man. My car's so sick. It looks so good. Yeah, best of show. A while back, I removed all the bushings on the suspension of my S14, and unfortunately, I ruined my lower control arm in the rear by cutting too deep. So now it's time to drive 2 hours into the country to visit Mr. Christopher Bragg, the S14 parts god. Ah yes, there they are, in all of their glory. He wasn't home when I got there, which was kind of disappointing because we usually chew the fat, talk about girls and stuff. But this time around, instead of burning the bushings out, I used a drill. Broke a couple of bits, but it's all good. Decided to use this little air tool instead to cut out the rest of the rubber. One thing that people don't tell you about when you get older is how lonely you can get sometimes. It's a lot harder to... Everybody got their own thing going on these days. The days are getting shorter and it's a lot easier to slip into a funk. Sleep all day or look at your phone all day. But I just want to let you molecules know that you're unique in your own beautiful way and that there's a lot to look forward to and you'll get where you need to be. Let's get these ball joints out. Tomorrow everything's getting powder coated and I'm going to film the whole process. I'm excited to show you guys because it's going to be a vibe. On today's episode of the S14 restoration, we're going to be chemically stripping, sandblasting, and powder coating all of these components for the car. It has not that bad of a smell.
No, I like the smell.
I like the smell. Look at the vapors just come.
I don't know if you're supposed to sniff it.
Yes, some good stuff. Oh boy. Ever said you look like James Pumphrey?
Never heard of it.
Alright, well I'll show you real quick and I'll get your reaction.
I'd say the resemblance.
Okay.
A little bit.
Is blood James Pumphrey? Whoa! Here we go. Now it's time to spray off all the fungus with a pressure washer, and then after that, we're gonna hit it with some compressed air so the sand doesn't stick to it when it's getting blasted. Now it's off into the sandblasting cabinet. Don't you just want to crawl in there and get all your skin taken off so you can get those bugs out finally? The bugs that have just been bothering you. Dear Lord, please help me. Dear God, please get these bad thoughts out of my head. Lord, please save me. The gentleman helping me today is named Shannon Harris of Harris Custom Coatings. He does powder coating on the side in his shop in his backyard, and he does a damn good job too. Just look how much of a transformation these parts have undergone already. Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O. Looks like his son Bryson just pulled up in this hot S13 coupe. Shannon and Bryson built this car over the years and turned it into a little spunky drift missile. He also did all the powder coating work under the hood and the wheels as well. It's gotta be an amazing feeling to help cultivate your children's passion. Oh, make sure to like and follow for part 2, because once the suspension is coated, this car is about to start coming together really fast. Bonjour, molecules, bonjour. Whoa. On the last episode of the S14 restoration, we stripped, sandblasted, and got all these suspension components ready for powder coat. The first step is the primer. The way powder coating works is the part is negatively charged, and the powder is positively charged via electricity and science, i.e. witchcraft.
We will surely burn at the stake for this one, guys.
These little holes, this is where the bushings go. go, and you got to make sure no powder coat gets in there because it's going to have really tight tolerance for the bushing. Now it's time to get the oven heated up. I need a girl who flatulent as hell. I need a girl with the wicked doo-doo smell. Powder coat goes on matte, and once it's cooked after about 15 minutes, it develops this nice glossy finish, but we're not done yet. The next step is to apply the color. We went with a color called Alien Silver, which closely mimics the Nismo Silver that I'm going for. Let's see how it turns out after we pop them in the oven. And just like that, Alieno forces have invaded. But we're not done yet. We still need to apply that clear coat. That's what's gonna make them really pop.
Time for the grand reveal. Ooh. Wow. Look at that glimmer and look at that gloss. This man surely is the powder coat boss.
Wow, I couldn't have said it better myself, Tristan. Tomorrow, I'm gonna pick up all the parts from powder coat, and then after that, it's time to get this car back on the ground and everything assembled. There's boxes upon boxes of parts flowing in every day, so make sure to like and follow because it's gonna be a bop. I love you! Why are there holes in the bottom of my car? Why does it look like Swiss cheese on both sides? Well, I think I have the answer. This is the drive shaft safety loop. In the event your drive shaft disconnects or explodes, this thing catches it, or in this case, rips off the body. But you think I'm gonna give up? Hell no. I'm not gonna bend over and let them get their fingers all wet and sticky. I'm gonna fix it. First things first, we make a stencil out of some masking tape, lay it onto a nice thick piece of steel. Next, we cut it to size. And because both sides are messed up, we're gonna mirror it, make a little tracey trace. Check it out, buongiorno. Now we're gonna tap down the repair area, make sure it's nice and flat, and after that, we're gonna get our surfaces prepped for welding. But if you have two pieces of metal that are never gonna see the daylight again, you wanna spray it with some weld-through primer so it doesn't rust. It's full of zinc. Why did I do that to my driveway? Now it's time to whip out the Harbor Freight welder and make two pieces of metal, one piece of metal. Now the reason I use this emoji is a lot of people say, I'm gonna have a seizure, oh, my eyes are gonna get damaged forever, which is not true, but I do put it there because the light is annoying. Now we're gonna get everything cleaned off, do the other side, check it out, wow. And then we're gonna wipe it down with some wax and grease remover, baby. Ah yes, it's time to apply the remedy, a zinc-rich, thick, gooey coating. Why don't you weld those holes, gas tank? Why don't you weld those holes, man? The gas tank's right there. I'm just terrified, it's so close. It's like right there. So what we're gonna do is put the, it's leaking, he's leaking. No. He's leaking. We're gonna put 4 coats on there. And then after that, once it's all dried and cure, we're gonna lather up all these areas with some seam sealer.
There's one part of an S14 that you cannot buy new.
Oh shit, I broke it.
If you break it, you're screwed.
That is the fiberglass trim that sits around the sunroof. This trim holds your weather stripping. And if it breaks or if it flies off while you're driving, which it happens a lot, it's game over. You have to get an entire new sunroof. Your sunroof can never be sealed again. You're just gonna have to duct tape around it.
Or in extreme scenarios, you have to rivet in an aluminum panel where the sunroof used to be.
But that's not going to stop Mr. Molecule. Let's get this thing looking brand new, sealed up so we can throw the interior in.
See how it's already starting to come off? Look at that.
Literally, I could probably put a couple of ounces of pressure on this and it will evaporate. The trick is to use a razor blade and slide it beneath the trim piece. It's held in place by some window adhesive, so you got to be very careful and work slow. Then you can pry it up, keeping pressure on both sides.
Oh, no way.
The area where everything sat is particularly dingy and there's some surface rust, so we're going to tape off the glass to protect it and then hit it with a wire wheel. When we lay down the new adhesive, we want to make sure that the area is clean, clear, and beautiful. Like you! Now we're going to give the sunroof a good deep clean with some degreaser and a tornador, and the piece of trim gets the same treatment as well, but we've got to be very gentle. Now we got a cute little workstation set up. I got some half caffeinated coffee so I don't get too crazy. And then we're gonna mix up some body filler so we can apply it to those nicks and little scratches and doodads. I like to use a razor blade to tackle these little precision repairs. And let me tell you, just working in the morning with a cup of joe, just getting this out of the way, because I've been dreading this job. I was so scared I was gonna mess this thing up. Oy vey. But yeah, we're gonna fill in all those little gashes, sand her down with some 180, and look at that. Buongiorno. Wow. Okay. Now remember, I did break that little section in the beginning when I was freaking out. And luckily it didn't go all the way through. So I'm going to bend it, saturate it with some super glue, and then hold it in place while it dries. Now that's out of the way, we're going to spray it with some high build acrylic primer. It's super flexible and we're going to give it 5 coats because we want to give this thing some sort of structure. But look at that transformation. It's already looking so better. Now we're going to focus on the sunroof itself. I'm going to use a hair dryer to make it a bit easier to separate this tint from the window. And look at that big piece. Oh, that's hot. Now we're gonna remove the residue left over from the trim piece with some steel wool and some glass cleaner. Holy smokes, look at the way the boy moves. And in that little ditch area where there's the rust, we're gonna put some Port 15. Make sure to like and follow for part 2. Let's see if we can get this thing all put back together. Oh.
Well, guys, I really screwed up.
After spending countless hours restoring this piece of garbage sunroof trim for the S14. So here's a little story. You cannot buy this thing new. You get to buy an entire another sunroof if it breaks. And that sunroof, who's to say that that trim is in good shape either? They're all pieces of garbage.
And without the trim, you can't hold your weather stripping. I wonder how much the weather stripping costs. Oh, great. That's absolutely fantastic. I love that. So me being my little silly extra self, I was like, why not have a little bit of extra protection and super glue the, gasket in before I put the trim on top. That way, it'll never fail, right? And then I can put this little gasket adhesive in there and put it on the top of the sunroof trim and almost run out and freak out because everything is drying really fast. Everything is going according to plan, right? We just plop that thing in and we're good.
Bro, please.
Nope. I really messed up. There is a lip on the actual piece of trim itself that needs to go into the gasket, and because it's super glued, I cannot bend it into the right position. And with all that struggle, I'm tearing the weather stripping and everything's falling apart. So I just have to give up. I have to pull up the trim piece. The weather stripping is destroyed, and I'm gonna have to start over everything from scratch. I'm gonna have to resand and repaint everything. I'm gonna have to clear out the ditch in this. Oh my god!
Working on a project car can be pretty brutal sometimes. For example, I failed miserably trying to put the new weather seal on my S14's sunroof. The S14 is notorious for having a leaky sunroof because there's a piece of fiberglass trim that's super fragile, and when it breaks, the weather stripping no longer is able to be held in place. I tried to be extra and super glue the gasket in place before I laid the trim down, and this is the result of that. So now I've had to restart the entire process, and this time it's a lot harder because there's dried sealant all over the trim piece, and it took about 3 hours to get all of that off. Can't use a wire wheel because it's too fragile. But once everything's sanded down, I hit it with some primer, 3 coats of that, sanded that down, and after that, 3 coats of some SEM trim black. And the sunroof got wire wheeled again, and I laid down some Port 15 to prevent any rust from coming back. I ordered some new weather stripping from eBay, and it was only $130 as opposed to $300, and it came in only 2 days, but then I noticed something awful. The latch that holds the sunroof closed has broken off. So now the entire sunroof assembly has to come apart, and I have no idea what I'm doing, and there's not really any tutorials online either. I figure, go ahead and remove the motor first, then after that, maybe this little pin? That didn't work either. Then I noticed this little guy in the corner, so I undid that, and underneath it were 3 bolts. I repeated the process for the other side, and the sunroof just lifted out. Then I could remove this little drip guard, bada bing, bada boom. This little doohickey thing slides out, I guess. Here's the culprit of all of our problems. This piece of cast aluminum has broken into bits. I figure I might as well disassemble everything else and get everything clean and really evaluate my situation here. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to weld aluminum. I feel like that's the only way. There's not enough surface area for some JB weld, so we shall see.
What's up, molecules?
As you guys know, I've been trying to get my sunroof restored. Right when we're about to put it back in, this piece broke, and it's the latch that keeps it closed. But I found this guy on Facebook Marketplace. He said he can take it back together since it's cast aluminum. First things first, we vibe. Then we get our parts cleaned off. With the surfaces getting prepped, we have time to take a gander at his S14 that he's getting ready for Formula Drift. I hope he slides sideways, but I digress. With the parts clean, it's time to melt them together. But things were not going according to plan, and Homeboy said he couldn't do it, but he had wallabies on like Walter White, so I kept egging him on. He was like, man, I'm just gonna ruin this piece. I don't know. I got an email earlier in the day from a molecule named Calvin Wynn, who said he's a pro welder, and if I shipped the piece to him, he could put it back together. I also said that he could be my baby daddy. But I was already here and really eager to get the sunroof back in, so I declined the offer. The welder kept saying, I don't know, man, things aren't turning out too good, but I kept pushing him and it turned out like this. Which I don't blame him for, honestly. A lot of you guys said that this piece would be really difficult to weld. So, time to get some coffee and hit the road. We're not stopping now.
Whoa. There he is. Christopher Bragg.
As always, the big homie and S14 parts god Christopher Bragg came in clutch, and he gave me his spare sunroof track.
What is this old bag of bones? Is this one new?
It got repainted, but come back here.
Oh, Snapple.
It needs a rear section.
It got squashed.
The purple bean machine.
The blue cookie is an incredible car. It's a Starfire Blue. Starfire Blue cookie.
With the new track in hand, it's time to get this sunroof all put back together and in the car. Let's do it, baby.
Great heavens, molecules. We got all the suspension back from powder coat. Holy crap. Sway bars. We got the subframe. We got dust shields. Who powder coats dust shields? Me, baby. Control arm, other control arm. Yeah. We must stay focused. We must. But look at all this. Done in beautiful alien silver. And check it out. Even the crash bar and the bumper bracket, which I welded this piece of steel to make it stronger so we can support that BN Sports bumper, baby. Baby. The front of this car will not be naked. What's this? More packages? Yes, sir. We got all the bushings ready to put this stuff back together, make it nice and gooey. Let's start off with the rear differential bushing, shall we? Let's lube. It's a tight fit. Just the way I like it. Psych, it's not going in. No, that's not gonna fit either. I feel like you need like dad strength to do this. Oh, word? Maybe if I get somebody pregnant, ooh, blah. I'll be able to have dad strength and force these in. No. But for now, I'm good. Don't do it. This is a disaster, but we have the Megan lower control arm bushings. Let's try and put those in, but first let's get them nice and cold and tiny like me, and then we'll try and hammer them into the control arm. But no dice. How about we try and press them in? No dice either. How about we go turbo? Not happening. What do I do? These differential bushings on the subframe have been really hard to push in by hand, so I bought all these little parts from Home Depot, and we're gonna try and make a little press. You know what I mean? Lube her up again. Shit, you gonna make me act up. Put this here. Feed it through. Your boy might have just created a thingamabob. Here it is before everything's tightened down. Let's see if it'll work. It's not really centering up, but I'm hoping that it just pushes in. Oh, it's slipping. Yes! How cool is that? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, wait. I think it's hitting the other side over here, so I'm gonna disassemble this all and see if I can hammer it in with some wood. Yes! Boy. There's a doohickey that goes in there. Check it out, y'all. Mr. Shannon Harris of Harris Powder Coating even did these. If you guys need powder coat work in North Georgia, make sure to hit him up on Instagram at Harris Custom Coatings. I believe it goes in this way. Man, this subframe is the cleanest east of the Mississippi. Let's do the other one. Y'all hear that? Ice cream truck. Okay, if it comes this way, I got $5. Well, that's a sack bust. I don't think the ice cream truck's coming, but we gotta finish this up. Oh, yeah. Oh my goodness. How beautiful, guys. Let's work on these now. Cover me, molecules, cover me! Ooh, blah, I made a mistake getting the S14's rear subframe powder coated before I cut out these metal collars. Most polyurethane bushings require that you keep them, but I got the GK Tech ones and they don't fit without getting these out. Luckily, I've had enough practice at this point that they're coming out pretty easily. Piece of cake, that wasn't bad at all. I found that making a couple of cuts on the inside of the sleeve and then chiseling them out with an air hammer is the absolute best bet. Yeah. I was really worried about messing up that brand new powder coat, but they came out just fine. However, the chisel did slip a couple of times and leave some gouges in the wall, and you don't want that with these polyurethane bushings because when you press them in, they'll tear. So I quickly sanded and polished those out. I wanted to get the surface as smooth as possible, and I have this little sanding ball, boop, thingy, boop, 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 but it wouldn't fit, so I used my nice bread cutting knife to slim it down. I used to do this type of tomfoolery back home, and my mom would get so upset. Well, guess what, Mom? This is my bread cutting knife that I'm screwing up, not yours. Mama, I love you. Now we're getting those surfaces super smooth. Ah, yes, it's time to put in these polyurethane bushings. Yes, sir. I ran out of grease that's specific to polyurethane bushings, but I read online that marine grease works just as well. So it's time to get them nice and sticky and slippery. These bushings are 2 pieces and they go in pretty easily. Well, this half at least. The other half, we're gonna have to use my thingamabob. So let's go ahead and flip her over. and then we can put the other half inside. Now I made a mistake here of not removing the inner metal sleeve between the two bushings, and because of that, air wasn't able to escape when they were pressed together.
So I had to redo it.
Boom! Piece of cake. Here's a closer up look of how my thingamabob works. A lot of you guys were like, man, that's just a bushing press. Buy the right tools. My brother in Christ, this cost me $7 to make. You big noodle. Don't bully me. Don't bully me. Don't bully me. Don't bully me. My bad. But it turned out so good, guys. Let's keep this ball rolling. It's crazy how much time, energy, and money I put into this S14 sunroof. I failed twice, but third time's the charm, baby. And that's because I'm using 3M very high bond tape as opposed to a glue to hold the trim in place. This weak piece of fiberglass trim is the Achilles heel of every S14 owner. If it breaks, you won't be able to hold your weather stripping, and your sunroof will always leak. But as always, the S14 is the gift that keeps giving because the hinge that keeps the sunroof closed broke into 2 pieces. I found a guy on Facebook Marketplace to try and TIG it back together, but it didn't turn out too great, so I had to visit my boy Christopher Bragg in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, to pick up a new sunroof sliding assembly, minus the glass, of course. I got that thing all nice and cleaned up, and now it's time to combine the 2 sunroofs into one. I started off by screwing in the drip guard, and then I decided to disassemble the wind deflector because it looked a bit dusty, and of course, more plastic pieces started to break. Thank God I had the other sunroof, so I just took a piece off of the other one and put it on this one, and we're good to go. Just garbage 30-year-old plastic. Then I got the wind deflector all sanded down and hit with 3 coats of primer, and after that, 3 coats of SEM trim black. Yes, sir. Now it's time to put it all back together. Snaps in place, then you put the little pin back in. It was a little tough, but Mr. Molecule got it. Holy smokes. Yes, it's time to lubricate. We're going to lubricate the rails that the sunroof is going to be sliding on, make sure everything's nice and gooey and tidy. And after that, we're going to put in the sunshade, which we restored and put new fabric on and dyed. Looks good. Now we're finally ready to put the sunroof into the car, minus the glass because it's a bit too heavy for me to articulate around. Take a gander. Oh my gosh, it looks good to have something in there. Now we're going to drop the piece of glass in. Oh. Gee willikers, mister, it looks like we have a vibe. We got a vibe. Well, I had to catch an L at some point, Molecules. The rear lower control arm bushings on the S14 have been an absolute nightmare to install. Now, even though I couldn't see any powder coat on the inside of the holes, a lot of you Molecules were saying that even a little bit would cause this, so I sanded way past the powder coat into the metal. I even tried shaving down the bushings themselves, but nothing would work. So it's time to get crafty and go to Home Depot so we can get the tools to make a thingamabob. Now this works for the subframe bushings, but the amount of pressure I was exerting was concerning to say the least. It was bending the washers. I foolishly used one of the washers from the rear subframe kit and bent that, stripped the nut, and fused it to the washer itself. But at this point, the bushing had gone in enough that I have enough room to use the bushing press, but I stopped making progress with that after a while, so I figured out how to use the shop press by putting a long extension through the other side, and that got it seated. But then I made a horrible discovery. The bushing doesn't even go through all the way, so it's just metal on metal contact on the subframe. The only other bushings on the market have the exact same problem according to reviews, so I'm gonna have to buy these Nismo control arms, which I should have done in the damn first place, damn it! Having 3 cars is fun until none of them run. It appears the alternator has gone kaputs on the daily driver Tacoma, because every time I attempt to start this silver beast, the lights in the dash fade and the headlights die. So it must be the alternator. We're going to start off by removing all the cables from it. In order to relieve tension on the alternator belt, we must access the idler pulley, and that requires us pulling the skid plate off the bottom. And after a long and arduous battle, we will wrestle that dusty little sucker out. Yes, sir. It is time to compare the old part to the new part. It looks the same. It spins. That spins as well. But Tristan, how did you even get the part in the first place? None of your cars run. I walked 30 minutes to the closest auto parts store, picked up the apparatus, and then I got hungry, so I decided to get some Mexican food nearby, and everything was vibey until I realized my phone was on 1%. How am I going to make it home? But I found a vape shop that let me charge my phone. Do not vape. Vaping is bad. Now we're going to put the new turbocharger in. We're going to tighten all the hardware down, put the belt back on and all the wires, and then we're going to spend a little bit of time looking for any missing hardware that rolled into the pine straw. The battery was interesting. It was covered in this blue raspberry dust that didn't taste nearly as good as it looked, so we went ahead and got that nice and cleaned off. The blue raspberry dust was also in the battery tray area, so we got that nice and tidied up. Yes, sir. Wow, it looks brand new. We're going to put that big hunk of lead in there full of juice. We're going to attach our Andy Man portable car jump starter, link in bio. And just like that, bada bing, bada boom. I figured why not change the oil too? Check out this technique. Rare technique.
Oh, yeah.
Like, flawless.
Oh no, oh no.
Uh-oh, oopsie.
We're gonna go ahead and switch out the oil filter as well. Replace it with a Kiwi Noodles filter. Some of y'all are gonna say Kiwi Noodles is not a good brand. Well, I think it adds a lot of horsepower. I had a funnel, I don't know why I did this, but check out this pour.
Fuck.
Hell yeah. Anyways. The S14 is going to look a lot more different after today, molecules. I run Z-Spec Design's polished titanium hardware, and I've always loved the look of exposed hardware. I think it just reminds me of RWB Porsches, and it just has this race car custom look. Don't get me wrong, molded over fenders are beautiful. I think they look killer, but why don't we get the best of both worlds? So Z-Spec sent over this package, so let's see what is inside.
Ooh, they gave me a hat.
Swag. That's right, y'all. Red titanium hardware. Let's see how it looks. We're gonna start off by removing the old polished stuff and putting that new red stuff in. Whole lot of red, oh my goodness. Now I definitely should have asked for some more neoprene washers. They help protect your paint, but I'll put those on later and make sure I don't seat the hardware too close. But just like that, in a few minutes, holy smokes.
Swag. You molecules were right. Oh my goodness.
Looks so clean, and I get to replace my over fenders whenever they inevitably rip off. Now, Z-Spec is having their Black Friday sale, huge discounts, and they have vehicle-specific kits, so please make sure to check them out.
Oh. Hello? So many fun goods to show you today. Look at my spread. Ball joints, sway bar end links, bushings, galore. So, let's get the bushings and the ball joints pressed into this guy here.
Yeah! Ooh, blah! These should be easy, don't worry about it.
And all we gotta do is put this Hoosits in here and put this Hoosits in here. It's suspiciously loose. Oh God.
No.
What is this for?
It should be loose.
No, it shouldn't be.
Well, not loose, but you know what I mean?
No, there's no way that's...
Maybe not that loose.
Yeah, what the hell?
Those are words.
Maybe I'm just being a silly little pumpkin.
Looks like Silent Hill out here, bro.
Will you be my first kiss? Will you be my first kiss? Psych! Psych! Turns out I removed the shell. Oh! Did you cut it out? Yes, I cut it out. It's gone. It's in the garbage. It's been... Oh, no.
Well, there's a metal sleeve that's supposed to be here that I cut out for the powder coating, so now I can't use these.
You look over there, the rear control arms are preventing me from putting the rear end, and now the front control arms are preventing me from putting the front end. But I must provide content for the molecules, I have to, otherwise I might get killed by the government.
I've been working on the railroad.
Man, trash at my house smells bad.
What did you do?
Oh God. We're just about ready to get this thing painted. Put a coat of primer on it. Ba ba beep ba boo. Do you think I shook it enough? Here I go. Here I go. Here I go again. Stop. For James's wedding gift, I am gifting him these GTR brakes.
Thank you.
No problem, dude. Don't they look so... They have a patina. Look. Holy shit, that looks like ass. Who is that girl I see staring right back at me? When will my reflection show who I am inside? When will my reflection show who I am inside?
Hello, molecules, after the disaster that was yesterday's video where I found out I accidentally cut out the sleeve that's supposed to be holding the polyurethane bushings on my control arm, I made the trip over to Z1, which is about an hour and 30 minutes away from me. And I wear this sprout on my head sometimes. Some guy came up to me, he's like, "Hey man, everyone's talking. Is it real?" No, it is not. It's a clip, but it shows that I'm still growing. So I picked up the bushings. Now let's start throwing together the front of the car. Here's the hardware that holds the front subframe on, and I thought it looked a bit dingy, so I got it sanded down and I hit it with some black paint, because why not? Gotta make sure that engine bay is fresh, but now it's time to press in those new bushings. So I went ahead, put it in the shop press, got it lined up with the doohickey, and began the magic of destroying it.
It's just bending the control arm.
That's right, y'all. The fun never stops. Maybe this will help. Putting it... Ah! That's right, Dumbo. You were supposed to brace it, which I ultimately figured out. Put a little socket in there and some welding magnets, and
I did it, guys! Oh my god, I did it!
Finally something good. Yes. Oh shit. It's bent.
Please, someone help me. That means after spending all that money on new ball joints and bushings for both the front and the rear, and ultimately destroying them, I'm gonna have to buy all new tubular arms, which I should have done in the first place. Molecules, I think I got my swagger back. As you know, I accidentally bent the lower control arm on my S14, and I was really bummed about it. So rather than buy new arms and have to eat honey buns and ramen noodles for the next month, it is time to see if we can get that bend out with a shop press. And as you can see, buongiorno. The lip on one side of the bushing is still protruding, but I think it'll be just fine. To prevent the other control arm from being bent, I'm gonna put some sockets in there and get them nice and snug, and then we're gonna throw it in the shop press, and as you can see, it is working beautifully. No bends. Now it's time for ball joints. Some of y'all are like, "Man, you keep screwing up." Well, I've never done this before, silly buns. My silly little pumpkins, I love you. But we got those ball joints nice and pressed in.
Look at that. Look at that. What you say?
Confidence is booming. These arms are looking beautiful. So the subframe hangers, I got them nice and cleaned up, put some black paint on them, and we're gonna install them because we're finally putting that front subframe in. Oh, we're gonna wiggle our way underneath like a wizarm, and then we're gonna get everything tightened down and torqued to spec. Holy crab. Now it's time to put the steering rack in, and we got some fine new bushings. We're gonna throw those on the steering rack and get everything tightened down. Yes, sir. And as you can see, holy smokes, it's coming together. Oh, my beautiful molecules, I have a wonderful video for you today. As you know, I put the front subframe and a steering rack in the S14. But before we put these lower control arms in, let's go ahead and address the inner and outer tie rods. It has this little metal clip from the factory, so I guess I'll put that on there. Yes, sir. Now, these new tie rods are nice and beefy for when I hit the McDonald's curb when I'm going through the drive-thru. Well, I guess I don't need to use that clip, so... There's not a little place for the clip to attach to, so I guess I'll just take that off. Now it's time to put that rubber on, baby. Oh, gross. Swag. We're gonna thread this little nut on. Yes, sir. And then we're gonna spin this guy on. Yes, sir. Look at that. Now it's finally time to put those front lower control arms on. Holy crap. I think this is the right orientation. I hope so. I mean, it looked Gucci guilty, but the problem is I went out to the car the next day and it was leaking a ton of power steering fluid from the tie rod end area. So I am at home base.
Hello.
Coral Works is about an hour drive away from me, and I love this place. They're so nice, and they have such neat stuff. Oh my god.
Thanks so much. Better than Z1.
Whoa, we like Z1.
No.
At the end of the day, Njuku and Coral Works for life. They're all about helping out the little guy. So we're gonna get the old power steering rack out, and check it out. Brand new power steering rack.
Very greasy.
I guess I can't escape getting all new parts for this car, but it's nice to know I have a new power steering rack, and the logo is sans serif italic, which is buongiorno. But this rack is made for the S13, so we're gonna have to change out the inner tie rod end, which I was already planning on doing. So we're gonna remove the boots. Look at that. Oh, girth monster. Put that new sucker in. To tighten her down. Unthread the old, and thread in the new. Wait a minute, it seems like I've done this before. What the crap? We're gonna put a ton of marine grease on that sucker, slide that rubber on, and, you know, we're gonna use a zip tie. Why not? And then maybe I can try and reuse this. Ah! Nah, we're using a zip tie. We're gonna snug down the outer tie rod end, and check it out. Wow. Bonswa would be proud, I think. What's up, molecules? We got a lot of fun stuff to do today on the S14. Oh my god. Yes, sir! Oh, check out what ISR sent for the build. This beefy baby is their new power brace for the S14, and look how it compares to the thin, nasty, crusty OEM stuff. I should have zinc plated the hardware, but I want to get this build moving along, so swirling them around with some soap and a colander gets them nice and tidy. We're gonna start off with the passenger side and get everything tightened down. Yes, sir. And the sway bar attaches to the power brace, so I picked up these polyurethane bushings.
We powder coated these for nothing, huh?
You guys know what this is for?
I have no idea.
The bazoosi installed and lubed up, it's time to install the driver's side part of the power brace. What makes this a power brace is the fact that the arms are much thicker, boxed in, and there's this little metal brace that goes in between that helps stiffen up your chassis, which I'm gonna need because I like pogs. Big, beautiful woman. What are you talking about, boy? I love that shit. Let's get everything torqued down. Now, this part was so fugazi. It was quite difficult to put the sway bar in by myself, but eventually I was able to wriggle it in and lose my mind a little bit in the process. But that's just a part of building a project car, guys. You just gotta stick to it.
I figured out what this guy is for. It's a little raised edge there, and this just levels it out. Cool.
Oh my god, look at all my shit, dude. This is bustling at a frequency once thought impossible. You could say that the suspension on my car is literally hot garbage. Literally. So I had to make a big difference. So the folks at SPL sent over the best of the best in S14 suspension.
These are so light.
Are they full titanium? Yes, OG. Are they made in the USA? Yes. Don't you lie to me. Do they have self-cleaning Teflon-lined Heim joints? Yes. Yes, OG. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now let's get this trash out of the way and get to work. Starting off with the front tension rods. So these nifty little doodads come with these offset spacers that let you adjust your steering angle. Very cool. We're gonna line it up inside of our new ISR power brace and unthread it out till it meets the lower control arm. Now we get everything torqued down, but then we realize that the hardware is just a tad bit too long. And we also realize that we've actually diminished our steering angle by putting this on backwards, so we're gonna flip that around and put it in the right way. I love all my molecules! My molecules love me! We are a family! We are a cult! I tried to get new hardware at Home Depot, but there wasn't any, so I went to my friendly neighborhood Ace and I met the nicest old lady. It was such a fun conversation.
Thank you so much. Ooh, that was
Did you get my sparkles?
Where's your sparkles? Oh my goodness, beautiful. What's your favorite car?
Car?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one that runs.
Yeah, I don't have any of those.
Yeah, 55 Ford Crown Vic.
Crown Vic. Ooh, why that one?
Because it's the one I remember from my teenage years.
Ooh.
I had a friend who had one that had never been driven. He kept it in his garage and polished it all the time.
Boyfriend?
No.
Shit, it might have been me. With the new hardware in hand, let's go ahead and finish up this tension rod install. We're going to tighten everything down there. Now it's time to move on to the sway bar end links. These just pop in. Any other little adjustment can be done during the alignment, I think. I don't know, I've never done this before. Now we're going to pop the knuckle on, tighten that down to the ball joint, and I looked up how to put a cotter pin in, and it said this is the right way. But you know at least one socially inept sociopath is going to comment, "Bro, what are you dumb, bro? Bro, bro." Then you check out their profile and it's nothing but a bunch of rollers and misogynistic quotes over rap music. But this looks amazing, guys. Now that the front suspension on the S14 is dialed in, let's go ahead and focus on the brakes. My incredibly supportive baby daddy in Juku sent over these Rofu brakes, but first let's address these crusty old hubs and bearings. We're gonna start off applying the Silver Magic, and then we're gonna slide the hub on the shaft. Now it's time to put on the retainer clip and the nut. Bro, stop, you're literally not funny. The only way to get ahead in the car community is to be nonchalant and aggressive, and leverage your material worth and experience in order to belittle other people. Duh. Ooh, it's pretty. As you can tell, I'm quite excited. I love the way these look with their little slots. We're gonna temporarily hold the rotor on with some lug nuts, and now it's time to open up our new calipers. Oh, and they're beautiful. These are Rofu Z32 base calipers, and they're a big upgrade from the OEM S14 ones. They're aluminum, they're a direct bolt-on fit, and they work fantastic with Rofu's ceramic brake pads that are great for both the track and daily driving. Now, I've seen people rub pads together. I don't know if that's necessary, but the hardware was looking a little bit dingy, so we're gonna swirl it in a colander with some soap, and now it's time to put those calipers on. Once those are torqued down, we're gonna throw the brake pads in with a little bit of brake grease on the backside. And with that new hardware in, oh my goodness, it looks so fresh and so clean. Now I also ordered these Roku premium brake lines, but I'm gonna install those at another time. I just wanna see the wheel on this car. These wheels are called SSR Hasemi Pro GTs, and I am absolutely in love with them. But the backside of the wheel and the caliper are literally like a hair width away from each other, so we're gonna have to fix that with a little bit of a spacer. But once that little thing is on, check it out, guys. Goodness gracious. Don't waste your time on me, you're already the voice inside my yard. I miss you. Oh my goodness, molecules, look at this delicious spread. It looks like I Spy, but a lot more expensive. And check out these new tubular rear arms. Ugh, buongiorno. But first, let's get the hardware looking nice and clean by boiling it, and now it looks marginally better. Whoa, now it's time to put the bushings in the rear knuckles. We're gonna get everything lubed up, yes sir. Luckily, these are multi-piece, so we're not gonna have all the same issues we've been having with the bushings in the past, thank goodness. With the center pin lubed up, I tried hammering it in, but I wasn't able to get even clearance on both sides. So ultimately, I took this nut and bolt, put them together, squeezed it, and it turned out absolutely buongiorno. Things were going swimmingly, but of course in every video something bad has to happen, and I put the bolt in a position where I wasn't able to get it out. And unfortunately, this isn't any regular bolt, this is the camber adjustment bolt, which I had to cut in half. We'll reap what we sow later, but let's go ahead and get the wheel bearing on. But then I remembered I got some extended studs, so let's go ahead and get those on first. We're gonna smack the old ones out. Someone's gonna say this is an absolute travesty what I'm doing, but they came out pretty easily. And look at the size difference. We're gonna place this fine Rofu brake rotor on top, courtesy of my baby daddy in Juku. And then we're gonna use these open-ended lug nuts to start seating the studs in place. And with them snugged up and centered, I tried using a breaker bar for whatever reason to get them seated, but then I was like, wait a minute, you have a shop press. Use it, silly buns. And I did. Now we're ready to attach the hub to the knuckle with a healthy serving of some marine grease. On every bolt, I put a healthy serving of some orange Loctite because I'm terrified of a wheel coming off on the road. And then I gave it a good couple ugga-duggas. And of course, torqued everything down to spec. Now we can seat the knuckle on the ball joint. Make sure to like and follow for part 2, baby! I think I like this little life. Hello, molecules. On today's episode of the S14 build, we're going to be finishing the rear suspension. In the last episode, we got the spindle assembly all put together and connected to the new lower control arms. And look what my new boyfriend SPL sent over. Take a look at these fine, muscular arms. My only complaint about these arms is ever since I got them, people have been in my DMs like, yo, big bro, let's chill. And I'm like, where were you before? When I was down bad, why are you acting brand new? So that's annoying. Once we adjust the length out to the factory arms, we're gonna go ahead and start putting everything together. Now this bolt was just a little bit too long, so I went ahead and marked it with a nut, cut it to length, and then once you back the nut out, the threads are still intact. We're gonna get everything tightened down, and once this car's on the ground, we're gonna torque to spec. And take a gander. Oh my goodness. 2024 is gonna be the year of the cornucopia of swag. I went ahead and picked up some new axles, and for the next episode, we're gonna focus our attention on the rear diff. Now, I was told that the contents of this pumpkin were that of the limited slip variety. So we shall see. Let's go ahead and get this thing cleaned up and cracked open. I used to work at Jiffy Lube when I was in high school, and one time I spilled an entire 16-gallon drum of gear oil on top of my head. I lost my footing when I was next to the catwalk, and I tried to grab for anything I could, which just so happened to be the open 16-gallon drum. And for those of you guys that don't know what gear oil smells like, it smells like rotten fish, and that's because of the pressure additives they add inside of it. One of my coworkers rushed me over to the eye wash station, and I just changed my clothes and smelled like rotten fish for the rest of the day. So as I prep my S14's rear diff for paint, I am reminded of that smell. This differential came with the car when I bought it, and I was told that it was a limited slip differential, which I am hoping that it is, so let's find out. It's not. Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O, Mr. Molecule, what are you gonna do? Well, I already know some of you guys are gonna be saying, weld it, be a man. But to be honest, I'm kind of scared to, because it rains almost every single day in Atlanta. And with the S14 set to be my new daily driver, I'd rather keep it open or go with a real limited slip differential, which I actually can't afford right now. So we're just gonna keep on cleaning up everything and get it ready for paint. I also have a pretty wild story about an experience with brake cleaner, but for now, let's save that for another day. Let's go ahead and get this new gasket on the housing. I like to use a little bit of grease to keep it from slipping around, and yes sir, time to put that cover on. I'm gonna hand thread everything down, and after that, use my little Milwaukee ratchet, and then everything gets torqued down to 40 foot-pounds. Now it's time to do our final degrease with some of this Pour 15 degreaser. We're gonna spray it on, scrub it, and then blast it with some water afterwards. Now it's time to move on to the Pour 15. I absolutely love this stuff. Now, I do regret using it on the diff cover because it turned out pretty streaky, but with the porosity of the rest of the cast metal, it ended up turning out pretty good. So once this all dries, I'm going to take the diff cover off again and send it over to my good friend Shannon Harris of Harris Custom Coatings to get it powder coated alien silver like the rest of the suspension. But overall, I think it turned out pretty good. Bonswa, please come back, Bonswa. I'm absolutely losing it and everything, every single day. Molecules, I think I might have met the coolest car guy ever while looking for a Z32 e-brake for the S14. His name is Jay, and he runs this place called Backwoods Garage in Ackworth, Georgia.
It still looks good.
Not too shabby. I bet it's a little flat.
Oh, the king.
The king.
Whoa, this looks like a movie set.
Does it really?
Yes. Smells like Loud Pack.
Oh, definitely.
My favorite part about building the S14 so far is all the cool people I get to meet. And this guy is basically like the Z32 equivalent of Christopher Bragg with all of his S14s.
It has 100,000 miles on the odometer with a matching clean title.
Are those the OEM seats?
They are.
300ZX was like Nissan's bougie car.
I mean, to a degree. At the time, it was definitely their, like, top-of-the-line luxury sports car.
After Jay showed me his collection of cars and trucks, we got to work getting the e-brake assembly off of one of his Z32s.
I'm confident about that.
While Jay was working on getting the e-brake assembly off, I stumbled across these 6 spare wheels. I think these would look incredible converted to a 3-piece setup. I absolutely love junk. I love big piles of junk. My mom always used to say, you leave everything outside, you leave everything outside. Well, it's a car guy thing, okay? I had arrived around 4 or 5 and it was starting to get dark. So I offered to buy dinner and I went to this little taco stand he recommended, and it was absolutely bustling. Once I got back, we vibed out for a good bit, and it's nice to have a new car friend that isn't a psychopath. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like a lot of car guys are really mean and arrogant and confrontational. But we got everything disassembled and laid out, so now it's time for me to go to Walmart to sell some extra parts I have.
Hello. Hi. How's it going? Hello.
This I got pitted like 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago.
Pit maneuvered?
Yup.
You got pit maneuvered?
Yeah.
By cops?
Yeah.
I am just grateful for all of you molecules and the fact that I get to be a car enthusiast during this time period, because it has been a wonderful and amazing journey. I love you all. Imagine a world where cars are real. Whoa. And not just something you'd see in a movie. Okay. Well, today, I'm getting one step closer to building the first real car. I've been working hard on my Nissan S14's rear suspension and brakes for months, so it's time to get it finished today. The stock brakes on the S14 are weak and meager, and this spacer allows me to adapt the Z32 e-brake onto the S14's hubs. But I need a little bit more space to work, so I'm going to undo the ends of these fine, beautiful SPL arms and flip them up. I also picked up these furniture dollies from Harbor Freight, which I should have done from the beginning, but this is going to allow me to move the subframe underneath the car once it's complete. My favorite thing about cars is the sweet nectar that they produce. A delicacy. We're going to snake the R33 e-brake cables through, which are necessary for this conversion, tighten everything down, and get to work installing the brake shoes. What I find really interesting about the Z32 e-brake is it kind of feels like it's held together with just hopes and dreams. There's a lot of points of failure, it's held together with a bunch of thin springs and clips, and I'm honestly amazed that this whole assembly can stop a car. But I digress. I am not an engineer, but a molecule. I'm happy that I picked up this little pick tool from Harbor Freight to get the springs in place, because otherwise I think I would have lost my mind. This right here is an adjuster screw that allows you to set the slack in the e-brake cable. What you got there? Some axles? Yes, and here is the pumpkin. The differential. I'm gonna go ahead and hammer in these new polyurethane bushings. Bop, bop, boop, boop, bop. With a couple whacks of the yammer, it goes in buongiorno. And we're gonna get this thing snugged up inside that subframe. The two look beautiful together. Whoa. Whoa. Next up, I'm going to tighten down these two nuts connecting the differential to the subframe, and with that, we're buongiorno. Now it's time to move on to the axles. Without the hubs installed, it's pretty easy to get them in place, and all I got to do is seat it on the pumpkin and connect these 6 nuts and bolts. Yeah, it's looking good, guys. I don't care about anything, man. So now we're gonna go ahead and put the hub on, and everything for Mr. Molecule was going all according to plan. I was just gonna put the Loctite on these, tighten it down, but then something horrible happened.
Oh no.
Oobla.
No.
Bonswa.
No!
Chill. So I realized that with the axle in place, there was not enough clearance to fit a socket around the nuts that attach the hub. And I had to disassemble basically everything.
Yes, I'm a man. I make things happen.
Guys, I just want to make it clear that I believe women can also make things happen. These right here are the stock alignment adjustment bolts, but when you have adjustable arms, you want to replace them with these eccentric lockout bolts. And with that, basically everything on the subframe has either been refreshed or replaced. So check it out. Oh my goodness. Look at that. I'm just excited to see this car back on the ground. How about you guys? Today is a monumental day for the S14 build molecules. The rear subframe is finally going in the car. But first, let's address these crusty old rear brake lines and replace them with some fine Rofu lines courtesy of my baby daddy in Juku. Thank you, baby daddy. With that out of the way, it's time to jack up the subframe and try our best to align it with the 4 studs on the body, and it is quite a task, especially if you're doing this alone, which I do not recommend. I had a hard time lifting the subframe evenly, so it would lean on one of the studs and not go in the other, leading to a ton of moments where I thought the subframe was going to come crashing down. One of the rear studs was grabbing onto the bushing sleeve and even pulled it out.
Holy. Whoa.
If Bonswa was here, he'd be able to sort of balance out the subframe and line everything up, but eventually I figured it out. The subframe bushing kit came with these new washers, so let's go ahead and get everything tightened down and celebrate our victory. Yes, sir. Swag! On a previous episode, I used one of the subframe washers to try and fashion some sort of bushing press, and it didn't turn out well and warped it out of shape. So we're gonna put it in the shop press and get it nice and flat again. Yay, look at that! These right here are additional subframe supports that I got powder coated alien silver to match everything else. So all we're gonna do is line it up with the washer beneath, tighten everything down, and torque to spec. Now the rest of the suspension is gonna have to be torqued under load. Here I'm adjusting the e-brake before we put the rotor on, but suddenly I heard a voice speaking to me. Make it lower, make it lower. So I adjusted the coilovers to make it lower. Ah yes, my baby daddy also sent over some fine new Rofu Z32 rear calipers and brake pads. Thank you, Njuku. Chill. Relax. With the caliper in place, we're gonna max out our torque wrench and put our Planet Fitness membership to test on the axle nut. And then this little doodad retainer goes on there. We're gonna put our cotter pin in, bend it up, hammer it down, yes sir. And man, why not put a big old wheel spacer on it? Why not? Why not, man? Wheel and tires looking a little bit dirty, so we're gonna go ahead and wipe me down and place it on the car. Get everything tightened down, and look how perfect the length of the extended studs are. Before we can see this car on the ground, I'm gonna have to do the other side, which I'm not gonna bore you guys with. I am proud to be a molecule. Get him water! Get him water! How's it going, molecules? I picked up this battery relocation kit from Summit Racing, but I took a look at my trunk and I saw it had a lot of junk.
Who has the most junk in the trunk?
Me, sire. And also the wiring harness was looking pretty dusty. All the factory clips were broken that secured it to the trunk lid, so I snipped those off and ordered some more online. We're gonna have to take the wheel off because in the passenger side wheel well, there's some emission stuff that we're totally not gonna get rid of. And once that's all unclipped, we can remove the harness from the car. We're gonna be using a combination of some loom and some harness tape, and we're gonna get this thing looking brand new because it looks pretty fugazi. This is definitely a neurotic exercise in terms of aesthetics, but it also serves a purpose since this car was absolutely infested with rats, and I wanna make sure that none of the wires are chewed through. And also, Mr. Molecule is broke, so it's time to go sell some stuff on Facebook Marketplace.
What's your favorite car?
Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am.
The Trans Am from Smokey and the Bandit. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
What? Not a Supra? 2JZ? What? We're gonna keep on working on the harness, getting everything cleaned up, and it turned out great. Check it out, guys. But we're not done yet. There's more work to do on the trunk. So I've been absolutely hoarding trunk plugs. All the rubber plugs on these cars are super rare, and I've got quite a few of them. But you know what's next? Your boy's gonna venture out into the country, and I saw a Supra at a gas station, but I was covered in mustard after I ate a hot dog and I was too embarrassed to talk to them. But we're gonna go to Christopher Bragg and pick up a trunk interior, one of the rarest parts.
Either this is really stupid, and I'm gonna screw a lot of things up, or, spoiler alert, it was really stupid. You know when things are going really according to plan and you just have this weird sensation that something's gonna go wrong? Well, guess what? I never checked the fuel tank on the S14. That's right, the S14 that's been sitting for 15 years. The gas tanks that are known to crack and are impossible to replace. But I mean, come on, it can't be that bad. We're just gonna undo this, pull the fuel pump out, and it'll go. Well, let's check inside. Yeah, it's filled with sediment, a lot of debris, but maybe we can clean it out, right? Do you ever panic and do something stupid that you know you shouldn't do, but because of your state of mind, you do it anyway? Well, I did just that when I filled my gas tank with water. My biggest fear was that the tank was cracked, and if that's the case, you had to either buy a $2,000 used one or run a fuel cell. But luckily, none of the water leaked out, and I was super relieved. So now it's time for me to hand pump all of that water that I put in there and just marvel at how filthy this varnish is. But you know what they say, if you don't do it right, you do it twice. I should have absolutely known to have dropped the gas tank when the subframe was out. It was foolish of me and definitely not gonna make that mistake again, but I just got so excited. I was a silly little pumpkin. I wanted to see this car on the ground, but I'm not gonna let this hold up the build. I went turbo and got the subframe and the gas tank out in under an hour. Once the gas tank was out, I let it sit with 5 gallons of degreaser and some water in it overnight. And don't worry, I have 5-gallon buckets of all the old gas, so this is mainly just water and degreaser that I'm pressure washing out. But you know, I guess this is sort of a blessing. Ultimately, my tank isn't cracked. It's all nice and clean and tidy now, and when I put the new fuel pump in, it should be good as new. Also, maybe I should weld the diff. Ooh blah, on the last episode of the S14 build, I had to drop my gas tank because it was filled with pee. I let it sit overnight in some degreaser, and then I pressure washed it all out, hit it with some aqua cola, rinsed it, and any previously inaccessible areas, I sanded down and hit with some undercoating, and it looks mighty fine. I also sanded down and repainted the gas tank traps and some of the satin black enamel. I noticed that the gas tank heat shield was looking a little bit dusty too, so I refinished that as well. Because whenever I get in alignment, I want the guy to go like,
oh, your undercarriage is so nice,
so
bro.
good.
Yummy.
So while the gas tank is doing its thing, I'm gonna visit every single auto parts store in my area to find the right fuel line and some clips. And we're gonna replace all the old, cracked, and weathered fuel lines on the gas tank. The old abrasion resistance pads that cover the fuel lines rotted away, so I'm gonna be replacing them with some of the sound deadening material and applying liberally. Hi, how's it going? Hello. Another issue that we're gonna have to address is the fact that these gas tanks crack super easily. Now, I'm really grateful that this tank hasn't cracked, but we're gonna be putting rubber padding to sort of isolate the metal straps from the plastic gas tank. Now, what's amazing is the S13 came with this padding, but the S14 didn't. So we're gonna triple up and make sure that this thing is nice and sturdy and ready to go. Now, the next step was a lot of fun, and that was installing the gas tank back into the car. What I liked about this process was that it was straightforward, fun, and easy to do by yourself. What's up, molecules? It's your Ebra boy, and today we're using dry ice to remove the sound deadening in the S14. The exterior looks nice, but the interior looks fugazi. I want to make the interior a cornucopia of reflection and solitude. S14s are not known for their quiet and luxurious ride. They're known for their rattles and shakes and being a tin can. Now, by no means am I trying to make it sound anything like the LS400, but I do want it to feel solid and strong. Another concern that I have is that there's rust hiding underneath the factory sound deadening, so it's got to go.
Baby, yeah, boy.
Sweat! Unfortunately, most of the sound deadening did not come off in big, satisfying sheets, and I found myself re-upping on dry ice over and over again, but at least I got to go inside of this vibey grocery store. They don't make them like they used to, no, sir. I also wised up and figured out I could just break up the dry ice in the bag and make a nice fine powder. Now, I read online that you could use rubbing alcohol to make a sort of cryogenic fluid, and really all it did was make a vibe with all the fog and a mess. What fascinates me is that after so much work, the interior still smelled like rats. And I finally found the culprit, the last artifact of the rats' inhabitants, this sound deadening panel firewall thing, which I tore out and I'm gonna replace. Now I gotta check all the wires to make sure they ain't chewed through anything. Stay tuned. Attention molecules, on the last episode of the S14 build, we used some dry ice to remove all the old sound deadening, but there's a lot of funk left over. Here's a video from a year ago. The previous owner had like subwoofers in the quarter panel recess, and yeah, we're tearing all that out. There's glue and holes and all sorts of stuff, so we're gonna strip the interior all the way down, and I'm gonna sand everything and paint it with some epoxy. Now, everything's gonna be covered up with sound deadening and carpet, but we wanna make sure we have a nice, good foundation to prevent rust, and also to give us that little peace of mind, you know what I mean? But as you can see here, things are looking hectic, and I'm using a drill brush on any problem areas with surface rust that are gonna get top coated with the Pour 15. We're going to scrub everything down with some dish soap, some rubbing alcohol. Before we paint, we're going to use some wax and grease remover. The most relieving thing is this car no longer smells like rats. Even after a year of work, it smelled like rats until I removed that dash firewall padding. But we're going to give everything a nice coat of some black epoxy. What's funny is I went all around town trying to find the matching VHT satin black cans, and accidentally on the driver's side I used gloss, which is a bit, but ultimately everything's covered in sound deadening, so I just gotta stay calm. Now, when it comes to masking off for overspray, masking absolutely drives me nuts. Just when the paper and the plastic is wiggling around, you're trying to tape it down, it bunches and folds, and the tape folds over on itself. So I just put wax all over the car and then wipe it off. And it turned out great. It looks amazing. In the next episode, sound deadening, baby. Yes, sir. I got a ton of work done on the S14 over the past couple of days, so let me show you. We got some sound deadening in this freshly painted interior. My friend James showed up to help. Thank you, James. The stuff I use is called Kill Mat, and it's pretty cheap. You can get it on Amazon. And I laid this stuff on thick. In some areas, there's 3 panels on top of each other. But here's the thing. You want to tape up all the seams on your sound deadening to give it a nice, clean look and prevent water intrusion. The Kill Mat's going to make it not sound like a tin can, but this stuff right here is where the real soundproofing comes in. This is a heavy mass-loaded foam, which is going to absorb a lot of sound. But before we lay this stuff in, we got to address the dash firewall pad that I ripped out because it smelled like rats. So now it's time to go out to the country and visit my favorite S14 parts hoarder, Christopher Bragg.
What do you think about Sanbon, Christopher Bragg? Christopher Bragg, what do you think about bonswa?
He's the badass.
Yeah, he's the best.
You can do it. Hell yeah.
That's the whole section of the car right
Yeah,
there.
you can pick up a whole quarter.
Now, if you ever need S14 parts, he's your guy. He had 2 of these laying around, and I picked the one that smelled the best. I want driving this car to be a holistic experience, a symphony for the senses. So we can't have any funky smells. What we're gonna do is we're gonna spray it down with some dish soap, get it scrubbed down, use some Lysol wipes, and we got this thing looking buongiorno. But before we put it in, we're gonna have to remove all the brackets from the dash. These are looking a little bit rusty, so I'm gonna get them powder coated. Once those are all out, we can begin trying to wrangle this thing in. However, it's looking like I'm gonna have to remove the steering wheel, and the reason I haven't removed it yet is because all of these little Allen key screws are totally stripped out. So I'm gonna hammer in a Torx bit and put the drill on the lowest setting, and it did the job. Thank goodness. What a relief. Phase 2 Motor Trend is sending over their new quick release hub, which I'm really excited about, so my steering wheel can go ding. But for now, let's go ahead and get all this foam inside. It trims up pretty easily. You can use some nice sharp scissors or an X-Acto blade, and you want to make sure that you cut out all of your mounting points, like this one for the rear seat. What I like about this stuff is it conforms really well to the curves of the car. All you got to do is just use this little wood roller, add a little bit of heat if you want to. Now, I'm not aiming for 100% coverage all over the car. I don't want it to be like an anechoic chamber. I want it to be more like a vibe. Does that make sense? A vibe. Holy smokes, we're moving fast, guys. Make sure to like and follow, or else I'm gonna The S14's infamous sunroof strikes once again, molecules. A couple months back, I made a lot of repairs to the trim, the weather stripping, this, that, and the other, the hinges. But when I put it in and scooted the sunshade back, these clips, half of them broke in half.
Oh my goodness, I am a silly pumpkin. There, oh no.
But luckily I have this spare sunroof just rotting in the back of my truck, and it has one clip that's intact. As expected, all the other clips are shattered and broken, but I think I can cobble them together to make one solid clip. And luckily, they're just held in by these little hammer rivets that we can just drill out. And here we go. We have one good clip that we can use and a whole lot of other ones that we can try and piece together. A lot of them are pretty rusty, so what I did is I coated them in some OSPO, put a heat gun to them, and repainted them. And I don't have any hammer rivets, so I have these small little pull rivets, and I think that they're gonna do the job! Uh-oh, it looks like I might have scuffed up the material, the fabric on the sunshade.
So you know I did what any guy would do. I gave it another coat of some duplicolor vinyl and fabric paint. And it looks good as new, okay? Whoa.
Anyway, I was able to figure out why the clips broke. This little piece right here, the rain guard, the drip guard, whatever, it wasn't secured in all the way. It would catch on the sunshade and it would break the clips. But I'm going to use this opportunity with the sunroof out to put some sound deadening in the roof. I want my car to feel solid,
Yes, sir.
strong.
Me and my partner bonswa go crazy. You know, I know that me and my partner bonswa go crazy.
I got white lithium grease all over the track, and I'm just testing it back and forth, making sure it doesn't get caught and break again. But things are looking good, so now it's time to load her back up into the car. Really wish I had a lot more friends, but this is the life I've chosen. I really wish that I could just say, whatever, it's fine. But, you know, there's like a little bug in my brain that goes like, bah, 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 bah. Oh, it's off by 1/8 of an inch. The sunroof is off by 1/8 of an inch. I need to shim it. I need to make it perfect. We're getting a lot of work done on the S14 today, molecules. Unfortunately, the sunroof drains right into the quarter panel, which rusts them out, as well as the rockers.
Stupid!
To prevent this from happening, what we're going to do is replace the tubes so they don't get clogged. And instead of letting it drain through the pinch welds, we're going to route it to a larger hole in the rocker panel. We've got seam sealer and epoxy all laid down, and we're also going to absolutely blast it in some cavity wax. Now that that's out of the way, we can put the headliner in.
Welcome to the parts room.
Many moons ago, I cleaned and dyed the headliner black, and I had some leftover high-density foam, so I decided to put it on the back of the headliner to add a little bit more soundproofing. And now, with that cursed sunroof finally dealt with, hopefully for the last time, it's time to put the headliner in, but the foam makes it too heavy, so I decided to pull it all out. The factory clips just won't support it. But I have some sound deadening in the roof already, so we should be good. Now it's time to clean up all these little doodads. I'm gonna blast them with some dish soap, hit it with a drill brush, and get all those decades of funny business off. We're going to check all the bulbs, and they look good. And also, we're going to clean these lenses off as well. Swag memory. We're going to go ahead and put it on. The headliner's got some dust on it. Don't worry, it's going to look good at the end.
Oh!
Bruh, you're literally being so annoying. Just like be nonchalant and arrogant, bro. That's how you become popular. Stop! The sun visors look dusty as expected. We're gonna get those cleaned off as well. These were the best sun visors that I could find, and still they look a little bit lumpy. So ultimately the goal is to get everything rewrapped. But these little mounting points, we're gonna spray them with some vinyl paint, and they look good as new. The screws are also looking a bit dusty, and I read online that you can use some iron out to make them look good as new. So let's try it out. When it turns into a foul-smelling pink lemonade, the job is done. Now that the paint on the visors is dry, let's go ahead and screw them in. Whoa, this little spot is where the sun visor retaining clips go, but they're always broken. Luckily, I was able to find some new ones online. And also, we're going to be replacing the rearview mirror with an S14 one, which is going to be cool and awesome. And here's everything all put together. I'm really not too much of a fan of the two-tone, so ultimately, I think I'm going to rewrap it in gray Alcantara. Ah yes, wiring and electrical. Every car enthusiast's favorite task. Made even more fun when just about every harness in the car has been chewed through by rats. So today, my good friend James and I will be going through every single harness and every single wire, cleaning, scrubbing, and disinfecting every single bit and repairing all the connections that were chewed through by those nasty varmin. It wasn't until recently that I heard that soldering is no good and that it introduces interference. Well, this is not a spaceship. This is a 1990s economy car. Here's the trunk harness, rewrapped, reloomed, And just like every other harness in the car, it's going to be installed with brand new clips. This harness tape finish on the main connection isn't going to work, so I picked up some large diameter loom. There's something about the appearance and texture of braided wire loom that makes me feel some type of way. Yeah, it makes me feel some type of way. And this car plays too much for real. You're bad as hell though, like, you gotta snap. We should link though, like, for real. I'm using some clips you can get off of Amazon, and that's why I'm drilling out the holes and clearancing them just a little bit so they can fit, instead of having to order all that OEM stuff they don't make anymore. And these wires right here go to the emissions equipment, which I'm totally keeping, which is why they're zip tied off to the side. All the holes get plugged with these. Today we're putting the carpet in the S14, the one I deep cleaned and dyed black many moons ago. But there's a couple electrical harnesses that run along the floor, the ones we repaired in the last video from all the rat damage. The harness attaches via these wire shields to the frame, and most of the clips are broken. So it's time to bring out the cube. By using a box cutter to trim off any plastic that's in the way, and using a drill to clearance out the holes, as well as removing some of this foam so it can have a snug fit without bunching up the carpet, we're going to be able to attach this securely to the frame of the car.
Oh, baby.
Take a gander at my wares. This process gets repeated for all the other connectors, and we want to make sure we touch up any of the holes with bare metal with some zinc-based paint. Don't want any rust, ha ha ha. With any unnecessary connections zip tied off, we're good to go. I'm a little worried with all the sound deadening and foam that we added. It's not going to be that snug of a fit with the carpet and it's going to bunch up. But things are looking good with the exception of the transmission tunnel, which needs a bit more backing. I don't have enough of this foam left over and it's pretty expensive, so maybe I can use some of this stuff from Home Depot. No! Today on the S14 build, we're putting some spunk in my trunk. Over the past year, I've been healing my trunk, nourishing my trunk. So the wonderful folks at LRB Speed took notice and sent over their aluminum trunk floor panel to replace my crusty OEM one. But without my jovial friend Bonswa, things never go according to plan. This floor panel uses the factory mounting points, and unfortunately one of these points contains a bolt that broke off flush. This video is an earlier attempt at me trying to use a screw extractor. Ah yes, a simple project turns into an all-day ordeal. My ultimate specialty! At first I was just gonna weld a bolt upside down to create a new mounting point, but once I had welded it to the damaged nut, the nut came loose and I was able to knock it off. Now I can be like Spike Lee and do the right thing and weld on a new nut. I want to be able to drive this car before the government forces me to drive an electric car shaped like a bubble. I don't want to drive a bubble. With the surface clean, I can apply a thick coating of zinc-based paint, and now it's time to jack up the car.
Oh, but it's too low, bro, because static, bro. Don't even try to claim static.
It might seem like we're going off track, but trust me, it all comes together. We're going to remove any paint that bubbled off from the welding heat and apply a thick layer of new undercoating before we attach the heat shield we painted silver. The bolts that attach the heat shield are what serves as the mounting point for the trunk floor hardware. I anticipated it would be noisy, so I'm going to attach some sound deadening to the backside of the panel. I have horrible insomnia. I slept for 2 hours and ate at IHOP at 5 a.m. I had strawberry and banana pancakes. This TikToker decided to put an aluminum floor in his S14, but what happens next might shock you. Thank you, LRB Speed. It's been quite the journey getting my S14's fugazi looking interior swagged out. With a lot of sanding, painting, sound deadening, but I'm taking it up a notch with a fully intact trunk interior. Believe it or not, this is one of the rarest parts of an S14. And today my beautiful bouncing molecules, we're going to be deep cleaning it and dyeing it black. Because a lot of these panels have a fiberboard backing, you don't want to get it too wet. So I'm using a Tornador and some of this carpet cleaning spray, giving it a good scrubbing down, and after that, vacuuming out the excess. I don't know if I can take it anymore. My stomach is full of dirt.
Shut up!
Oh. Shut up! We're gonna give all these panels about 3 to 4 coats of duplicolor fabric and vinyl paint, but this one in particular is a bit fuzzy mine, so we're gonna give it a boozy fade to get all the fuzzy bits off.
What you want to do about your sideburns?
Can you square them off, please?
I got you, like, right here?
Yes, that's perfect. Here you can see me living out my fantasy of being an inkjet printer. And between the coats, you want to make sure you scrub a dub-dub to get that dye deep into the fabric. All of these are going to dry overnight, so stay tuned tomorrow for the installation. No! Uh-oh, molecules. A while ago, there was pee in my gas tank, so I had to drop the tank, I had to flush it out, deep clean it, but the fuel pump and hanger were beyond saving. They were necrotic. So I got this new hanger on loin, and a special new sponsor joins the molecule team. That's right, Works. The wonderful people at Works sent over this 300 liter per hour fuel pump. The name sounds German, but they're actually an American company that makes high performance fuel system products. They're very good. I stripped back the OEM wires and they were looking a bit corroded, so I cut it and moved down a bit and it got a little bit better, but ultimately I just used a wire brush to clean it off. And now it's time to solder them. To connect the fuel pump to the hanger, I got some stainless steel zip ties. Initially I was using plastic, but I knew you guys would yell at me. We're gonna use 3 of these metal zip ties to get it nice and tight. And here's the finished product. And the heat shrinking is chemical resistant as well. We're gonna lift up the sending unit and start tightening down all of our hose connections. No! And then we're gonna drop the screwdriver in the tank. This step isn't really necessary, but after about 45 minutes of trying to fish it out, it builds character. Now we're gonna address the sending unit metal plate cover. The foam seal has completely degraded and dry rotted, so we're just gonna go ahead and wire wheel it off. Then after that, we're gonna start sanding down any of the surface rust.
And then we're gonna cover it with paint. And then we're gonna cover it with paint.
All around me are familiar places. It turned out pretty good, and I was gonna use some of this foam tape, but it just wouldn't conform around the curves that well, so I ended up using some of this butyl. With the wires snaked through, it looks beautiful. Ow! Ew!
Hey, yo, Mr. Molecule, let me swag your trunk out.
Okay.
My trunk used to be stink nasty, so we're gonna hit it with some cavity wax to prevent resust before we put in the highly coveted trunk interior that we deep cleaned and dyed black. But what's this? It's flopping around without the metal bracket it attaches to, but luckily I've been through 3 of these cars and I have this nice rusty one. So we're gonna wire wheel it, paint it black, put it in. Yes, sir. Now we got a nice sturdy mounting point to put these trim clips in. As I assemble this trunk, I start thinking about all the cool groceries I could put back here, like some eggs, or a carton of milk to roll around and explode, or lettuce. With all the fabric pieces in, we can turn our attention towards this dusty piece of plastic trunk interior. And after a quick scrub, we can apply some of this exterior plastic trim restorer.
Okay, swag.
That's what I'm saying. This is gonna help cover up any scuff marks or discoloration. And now it's time to put it on the trunk using these OEM clips that I sourced from Christopher Bragg. Oh, but we're not done yet. The beautiful folks at Imperial sent over this incredible trunk floor mat. You have to see it.
That is hot.
It's just luscious. These floor mats are thick and made in small batches. They use the highest quality yarn. And no universal fit here. These are all custom made for your car. So if you've got a Hot Boy Toyota or a Nissan or even a Porsche, these are the floor mats for you. Hello, molecules. Today we're working on the S14's door cards. They got gouges.
No.
They got broken clips.
Ooh.
The hand grab area is all wrinkly and mushy.
Ooh,
Blah, and every single mounting point is blown out. And guess what? This is what an average S14 door card looks like. Maybe not this dirty, but just about in this condition. But I'm working with what I got, so I scrubbed this thing down multiple times, and it had this sort of mildewy, moldy look that just wouldn't come off. I used vinegar, I used the magic eraser, I did all sorts of stuff, and it just still looked like this. At this point, I felt like I was out of options, so I decided to apply some goo and polish it out. This is just one of those cases where you know it's not gonna go well, but you do it anyway, and it ends up looking like this. What was I thinking? What? Yeah, I ruined it. This door card is totaled, man. But I guess it's not too big of a deal, because check this out. The plastic that these door cards are made of just has degraded so much over the past 30 years. So here's the plan. I'm gonna drive all the way out to the country, visit Christopher Bragg, get me some new door cards. I'm gonna fiberglass the backside of them to make them super strong and rigid so that they don't break.
Oh no, what happened?
So I totaled the door cards of my S14 by trying to polish them like a silly little pumpkin. So now it's time to go out to the country and visit my favorite parts guy, Christopher Bragg.
Alright, which one of y'all did this?
Gucci.
Look at that. They got it in here too. He says it's rusty.
I think it's a Indiana car.
Oh, word.
Christopher Bragg has an excellent collection of S14 parts, and I went ahead and picked up these AC vents too. We're gonna go ahead and pull some interior plastics out of this car, but I want you guys to see what happened with the engine bay.
Whoa!
The firewall and transmission tunnel are destroyed because someone wanted to fit a VQ in here. All I need from this car though is this interior quarter panel piece. But things started getting really weird. Christopher started saying a bunch of cryptic stuff.
You know they're watching you.
Who?
They know.
Who?
The government.
The government?
They're after you. They've been hassling my ass and won't leave me alone.
This is about bonswa, isn't it?
I can't say, but you need to back off. I'm trying to protect you.
About the feds and bonswa and the portal, isn't it?
You didn't hear it from me.
Big bala, big bala.
This never happened.
This never happened.
This never happened. Just remember, long live Sanbon.
What's up, molecules? Today we're fiberglassing and reinforcing the new door cards I got for the S14. I'm so stoked I was able to get these. The new pattern is swag memory. They're in great shape-ish. But ooh blah, just like every other S14 door card, they're beginning to crack on the backside. Luckily, these cracks have not proliferated and begun to mess with the vinyl, but there's a lot of them, and we're gonna have to sand everything down with some 60 grit, remove any of the plastic accessories like this speaker grill, and start getting the surface ready for some fiberglass. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like a lot of the 90s fun cars that we all love, the plastics are reaching their expiration date. So until somebody comes along and makes reproduction panels, we're just gonna have to work with what we've got. I'm curious though, if you got a cool fun car that you're working on that's a bit older, what is the one part that is just impossible to replace and is always broken? Because I know the S14 has a lot of them. I mixed about 4 ounces of resin at a time, and I covered the panel before I put the fiberglass cloth on top. I quickly noticed that I didn't really have the right tools for the job. Some people use these little spiky roller things that evenly distribute the resin into the cloth, and I just was able to dab it with the brush or use some gloves to press the fabric down. All in all, I put about 3 to 4 layers down on all the problem areas, and there are some air bubbles, but overall, I think I did a decent job. We're gonna let it dry overnight and trim off any excess tomorrow. I'm just glad I'll be able to use this door without it falling apart. Hello, molecules. Do you know what I like more than working on my car? You watching me work on my car. Whoa, no, for real, I cannot thank you guys enough for this insane journey over the past 2 years. I would have never thought that me posting videos of my crusty Nissan 240SX and learning how to work on it would snowball into all this, and honestly, it feels like a dream come true. I want to keep buying clapped out cars and posting videos until I physically can't anymore. And then my offspring's gonna continue my legacy even if they don't want to.
But Dad, I want to be a doctor and save people.
No, you're gonna be a niche micro internet celebrity that fixes old Japanese cars, okay? But I want to let you molecules know that long form content is finally here. There's a 20-minute new YouTube video that just uploaded. It has story time, working on the car, bonswa lore, and how we're bringing bonswa back home. You guys have inspired me to take that next big step. And I know it seems kind of melodramatic. I mean, it's just YouTube or whatever, but it is a really big time commitment, and I'm hoping that you guys can continue to support me as I gravitate more and more towards long form content. I'm going to keep posting on here because I love you guys, but really I think right now I got to kind of switch up my focus a little bit. But really, I honestly don't know where I would be without you guys, and I'm not just trying to be corny. Like, you really helped me through a really difficult time in my life and gave me just a better sense of purpose, and I don't know. I mean, I feel good about the future, so check it out.
Hello, molecules.
To finish up the rest of the interior, we got to install the crash bar today in the S14. Now, a lot of these parts were extremely rusty when I pulled them out, so I got them sandblasted and powder coated. Will you ever see these parts? No. Was it driving me absolutely insane? Yes. What I'm the most surprised about is how I've been able to keep track of all this hardware over the past 2 years. But then again, I was able to pull hardware from like 3 different shelves, so I think that's why. Also guys, I got a YouTube video up, so if you enjoy my content but wish it was a bit longer, click that icon, baby, in the bio, baby. I know there's rust on the steering column, it drives me nuts. I don't want to take the steering column out. Anyway, let's move on to making the pedals look nice. I have 4 because I plan on going up. The brake pedal looks fugazi. It's covered in rust, we're gonna have to fix that, but I can tell my car was a manual swap because check out the sticker on the clutch pedal. But we're gonna wire wheel all this rust off, yes sir, yes sir. And then we're gonna let the little drill get caught in the blanket.
That's dope, dude.
It's looking much better. Now it's time to give it a paint job, but first we gotta remove these sensors. I think these have something to do with like your brake lights or something, but we don't want any paint getting in these, so we're just gonna take them off. A delicious little spritz of some black epoxy paint, and suddenly we are buongiorno. First things first, we gotta put the speakers in. I mean, these speakers are ancient, dude.
Bonswa! Bonswa!
No, not a person. He's a yellow ball.
Imposter! Imposter! You think you could be him? You're not him!
Wait a minute, are you a Fed? No. Picked up these JL C1650Xs. I love JL audio in every car I've ever had. It's all I run. When you buy JL, you get a good product. Free him. Bonswa. This looks crazy. I think I might just recycle this old piece. Ugh. Okay, yeah, we're vibing at a frequency once thought impossible. I had an exorcism done on me once by a Puerto Rican woman in her 60s. Putting holy water and stuff on me, and to be completely honest, I feel a lot better. Let's get the wiring settled, I guess. Who's your first kiss?
My first kiss?
Yeah. Somebody help him?
Her name was Amanda. I was in 8th grade, and at the time I thought it was super late. I was like, oh my God, I'm the oldest person who's never been kissed.
I'm the oldest person who's never been kissed.
And we kissed at a movie.
Amanda, somebody help him?
My succulent molecules, it is finally time to reveal the engine for the S14 build. What lies beneath this soft, plush black blanket? A KA24DE. Dude, are you serious? This is the same motor that comes with the... Whoa. Okay, so the KA24DE comes stock in an S14, but this is not a stock motor. In the bottom, we have CP Carrillo pistons and connecting rods, ARP hardware absolutely everywhere, a delightfully springy metal head gasket, and to top it all off, a full Ferrea valve train kit. I mean, that's all cool and all, but I'm not done. I've been cooking for a year. This thing's gonna be the rowdiest, nastiest, swaggiest, oh my God, it's gonna be sick! This whole process started about 2 years ago when I picked up this motor from Formula Drift driver Jonathan Nairn, who assured me it was in tip-top shape. I hastily got everything powder-coated, and now here today, we are prepping this beautiful cast iron block for paint. The cast iron block and the larger displacement is one of the main reasons I decided to go with this engine over the SR. Also, I think a KA is scrappy and it has a lot to prove, like me, okay? And people can't see the potential until it glows up. While the SR20 may be God's motor, the KA24DE is the son of God's motor. So join me as I take the original heart of the 240SX and make it the best it can be. Hello, molecules.
Hi.
Ah, yes, the KA24DE, the scrappy truck motor that is oftentimes in the shadow of the SR20. Well, I'm going to be swagging this thing out. First things first, we check the timing. It looks okay, but we're going to redo it anyway because we're neurotic. Next, we apply some goo with this cute little squirter thing I got from Harbor Freight to put in the oil pump gears. Now it's time to be like BOOSIE and wipe me down all the gasket surfaces. But then Mr. Molecule realized something terrible. I don't have all the hardware that I need for the oil pump cover. See these bolts? No bueno, they're supposed to be flat faces. So I went to Ace Hardware and I dropped the only reference screw I had in the parking lot and I lost it. So now I have to go look for all the screws blind. Oh, I hope I can find it, I hope. Yes, I did, boy. Put a little bit of Loctite on that thing and we're bueno bare. Now I'm gonna spray off the timing cover, make it nice and clean, and check this out. No crusty, dusty OEM hardware. Z-Spec Design hooked us up with the full kit. Oh, they be like, Mr. Molecule, is the S14 done yet? Hold up, let me put on some RTV and Z-Spec. Bust down my timing cover and it's looking so wet. Shawty said, let's take a ride. I said, all right, bet. Word. I get super self-conscious when I put on RTV because I feel like I'm not doing it right, and it's like the equivalent of me like peeing in front of like a large group of people because it's just it looks bad. It looks like I'm doing a bad job, but oh Lord, does the rest of it look so good. Shut up! Warning, timing cover bust down. Now it's time to install the front main seal. We're gonna oil it up, place it in there, and try and find a socket of a similar size. Okay, that's not gonna work. But then I remember I have this little kit for ball joints, and something in here has gotta work. Yes, sir. This looks, perfect. We're gonna place that there, and tap, tap, tap. Yes, sir. And after a couple love taps, it is nice and secure in there, I think. Does this look right?
Does this look right? Okay, hello? Now it's time to put on the crankshaft pulley. And this is a Woodruff key. Woodruff Wilson. The Woodruff key prevents the pulley from flying off and just making you have a bad day, man. Because if this thing came off, oh man, you'd have a bad day.
Half the time I'm even working on my car, I high-key have no idea what I'm doing. Or better yet, I'm second-guessing myself like crazy, which is why I think Universal Technical Institute is the move if you're really trying to gain the skills needed for a career. You can get trained in less than a year, and I know for a fact I've spent more than a year just looking at my phone trying to work on the S14, so I should probably enroll and save myself some time as well. You're gonna be taught by experienced and dedicated instructors, which is like having a bunch of cool dads teaching you to work on cars and trucks instead of just making you practice piano all day. There's a demand for skilled trades professionals, and Universal Tech is an official training partner for top brands. If I had known that I'd be doing like this TikTok car stuff, I totally would have gone to Universal Tech instead of that year at state school. It was a bad year, man. Okay, so enroll now at uti.edu and take control of your future, big dog.
There is not a single day that I do not think about you molecules. Please swerve and observe as I place this P2M pulley kit on the front of this KA24DE. Beautiful.
Love it. I love it.
The valve cover's been powder coated white. I want these letters to be polished though. So first I'm gonna sand it down, and I'm gonna sand as fast as a boy can. But unfortunately, it didn't turn out too great. I had this chrome plating before, so I'm gonna redo it. But let's go ahead and get this oil pan painted. I'm using a flexible black worm to seal the bottom of the oil pan from the paint, and this little plastic doodad to cover the oil bung. You know why? Because we're putting a turbo in my car. It's gonna be so fast, bro. A million horsepower, 2JZ. But you know, we gotta make sure to impress the oil and lube techs by having clean oil pan bolts and valve cover hardware. I'm gonna end up replacing the valve cover hardware with some nice stuff, but it is what it is. I'm putting some RGB in these little problem areas that I've found. I didn't find them. Somebody else did years ago and told me to put RTV there. But it looks good. Now it's time to flip that nasty hoe over. And check it out. The paint on the oil pan turned out beautifully and no intrusion. And this is not a drill. I've driven across the country in hopes of saving our friend Bonswa from federal custody in the Nevada desert.
Part 3 of restoring the rusted out, rat-infested rocker panel on my Nissan S14. Now before we weld in the patch panel, we gotta make sure everything is clean and free of any rust, and take a look. Ugh, it's full of boo-boo in there. Absolutely filthy. So we take the wheel brush, go and it's looking much better already, but there's still some surface rust we need to address. So I went on over to Ace Hardware and made this little contraption. It's a abrasive nylon brush on a Milwaukee extension and a right angle adapter. I also picked up some rust dissolving sauce. We spray that all up in there, put the doohickey inside, put the drill and go After a few minutes, it's looking infinitely better, but there's still some surface rust. So I went ahead and picked up some OSPO, which is another great rust converter, but it's thin, so I can pump it through this garden sprayer and get every single little nook and cranny, and I went absolutely brazy with this stuff. But this is phosphoric acid, so it will etch concrete, but I'm planning on redoing my garage floor anyway. And it's looking so much better. The white stuff is the converted rust, and I think it's ready for some Pour 15, don't you think? My idea was to wrap a pry bar and a microfiber, put a rubber band around it, and make it into like a little mop to apply the paint. And I also tried applying it with this spray bottle, but it's obviously too thick and didn't want to travel too far. So I ended up just wetting it directly into the Pour 15 and sort of just mopping it all around, trying to cover as much as I could, mainly the bottom of the rocker panel because that's the problem area. I eventually used this metal rod and it was working amazing until I pulled it out, and that took forever to get out. But here it is, all said and done. The coverage isn't the best at the top, which I'm not too worried about. I'm mainly worried about the bottom. The next step is to apply some weld-through primer to any areas they're going to get welded. After that, some epoxy paint before any body filler. And then once everything is sealed up, definitely blasting it with this cavity wax. Cavity wax is a corrosion inhibitor, and you can apply it with these massive long wands so you can get into all the little nooks and crannies. Yes sir, this thing ain't never gonna rust again. It's gonna be powerful, it's gonna be strong. I'm sorry little kids, but I'm a killer clown today. How's it going, molecules? It's finally time for us to get started on the suspension and brakes and
all the hard bits of the S14. To begin, let's go ahead and get these Z32 calipers off. Now these aren't in the best shape. I could rebuild them, but ultimately I've decided to replace them. Now we're gonna beat off the rotor. And we're gonna pull it off. Now the dust caps were not talking to me nice, so I had to grind them off on both sides to get access to that big old 32mm nut. And we gonna crank that hog off animal style. Yes, sir.
No way it came off that easy. There's no way!
You better believe it, you twink. Now we're gonna remove this hacked up dust shield. And get ready to remove the struts. Gaze upon my color matched and shaved engine bay. But now we're gonna remove this bolt that attaches the column to the steering rack and finish pulling those coilovers out. Yes, sir. God, I wish cars were real, man. So this is where things start to get a little bit topsy-turvy. These were not coming out. I was definitely doing something wrong. But we can't forget to feed our friend bonswa. I made him some salmon. And he's gonna grow up to be big and strong and turn into sambar. But I had to pick up these things called pickle bars. That's really what they're called. Interesting.
Oh. What broke? Oh, it just popped. That was loud as shit. Ah. Yeah. It's just bending it, man. Oh.
Get it together, Playboy. But now it's time to drop this front subframe.
Yeah! Whoa! You son of a bitch.
Every single little thing is gonna get replaced or powder coated. It's gonna be a vibe.
So today is a pretty big day for the S14. We're gonna be trying to pull the driver's side rocker out using some nifty piece of equipment I just picked up. This is called a hydraulic ram jack. As you can see, it goes straight and then it curves around here. So what we're gonna do is place this here and here. My thought process is, as we're pushing here, to put a long plank of wood along the side of the transmission tunnel so we don't create another problem for ourselves. And let's give it a shot. Let's see how it does. Oh my God, it's pushing it out. See the insane amount of pressure this thing is exerting. It's cracking where the fiberglass was. I was planning on cutting this out anyway. And this wood is breaking in half, but it is doing a really good job straightening everything out. I think it's at a good spot. Let's release the pressure. This section right here is going to be covered by a side skirt. The damage only extends to about here, so I'm thinking about cutting from here to this ridge down to here and then having a clean bead of weld run there because the side skirt's going to cover it anyway. As you can see, this donor rocker looks good from the top, but if you turn it over, it looks a little squishy, don't you think? It's got some holes drilled in it from somebody mounting side skirts in an odd fashion, and the pinch weld is obliterated. Let's drill these holes out, peel it back, and cut it right there, and take it off and see the damage underneath. Average size hammer. Oh! Pretty lumpy. No rust. Need to put some seam sealer there. I can see the bottom of the driveway. Made this test cut here. I'm actually going to be cutting here, and then this line I'm putting here. But I just wanted to get some practice cutting the panel. But yeah, I'm going to get a hammer and a dolly and flatten this little pinch weld area here. Also, if anybody is near Atlanta, Georgia, and wants to hang out and get paid some cash to lay some dimes on this rocker panel, I'm talking some nice welding, let me know. You'll be compensated for your time, and I can buy you some chicken wings, and it's going to be a vibe.
I have until tomorrow to cut out the remainder of the damage from the driver's side rocker and section in some new pieces from the donor car since a mobile welder is going to show up and put everything back together.
Since I'm really working with what I got in this scenario, I've had to cut the donor rocker into multiple pieces so that I can utilize the good parts of them. So I wish it was just a cut and paste, but that is just simply not the case.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
All right, current progress. I got these to line up nicely. I can still clearance them a little bit to get them just right, but that should be enough for the welding. This area up here needs to be hammered down to meet up with this area. This part from the donor car was not cut exactly straight. So I'm gonna take some measurements against this and try to get this to sit flush against this excess that I left. I think we're getting somewhere, but my dumbass cut a little square out where it's not supposed to be. So now there's gonna be a big ugly square. Yep, it's just gonna be a game of lining everything up, getting it the way it needs to be. Ugh. If you're looking for a cheap, inexpensive, and fun hobby, I recommend buying a shit box and working on it because there's nothing more fun than that. So these are SSR Hesemi Pro GTs. There are not a lot of them in the United States. Here are some old ads I found for other wheels in the lineup. I wasn't able to find my specific wheel though. I posted a listing in my local Nissan 240 group in Atlanta saying, hey, I'm looking for wheels. This is how much money I have. Some guy offered these up and I was like, oh my God. Those are literally perfect. I've only seen them once in my life for sale. And the person refused to sell them to me because I was 14 hours away. Like, I would have made the drive. So I was like, I'll take them. But then he rescinded the offer and he was like, nah, man, these are so rare. I can't get rid of them. Eventually we worked something out where he was like, listen, man, no negotiation. You show up with the money and they're yours. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And I got them. Holy hell, I got them. The approach now, after finding the damage on the driver's side, is to make the car a little bit crazier looking. It's going to be much more 90s Japanese racing inspired. It's not going to be a stance car. And with the new paint color that I chose, I feel like the white bases on these wheels are going to really, really stand out and look great. So let's slap some new tires on these. I already placed the order for the tires. They just arrived today at the local shop. So make sure to like and follow so you can see it because I'm going to be seeing it for the first time too on the car and I'm stoked. Time to get some tires mounted on these. It's raining like it does every single day. Oh, my headlight! You're going to get in so much trouble.
Did they give you any kind of like shit?
Yeah, that's a fatty, dude. Oh, man. Take this not that bad looking OEM wheel off. Okay. Cool. God damn it. Of course. I need to get much shorter lugs. So thick! Do not worry, my friends. We will not be poking. We will be tucking. It's gonna look so much better once these are on and that little cap is on. Oh, I'm so happy I decided to go with that thick, meaty sidewall. So thick and meaty and so juicy. Oh my God. So I'm sure you guys have already gathered that I'm gonna be doing over fenders. I was gonna leave this car completely stock body, but if the quarter panel was undamaged, I would be like, I got in contact with Charge Speed USA. And I was like, hey, you know, I'm a incredibly micro niche internet celebrity with less than 100,000 followers. Please help me. And they're like, no. As expected, I think I found the perfect pair. I placed the order, and by some grace of God, they are going to be here by the end of this week or early next week. And they are sick. So stay tuned.
Installing new fiberglass fenders on my S14.
So we got these nice meaty tires and the new wheels on the back of the car.
The over fenders are on their way. They should be here soon. But in the meantime, let's put the new wheels up front.
So on the back of the car, we have a 265/35/18. And for the front, we have these Toyo 235/40/18s. A bit thinner, but still thick boys. How are we gonna fit these juicy boys up front? Well, I have the answer. These are BN Sports plus 30mm front fenders. It's a bit rusty, isn't it? No need to fear, these will be replaced. These studs are too long for this to go in. Lug nuts are not correct. Can't get anything in there. No big deal, just need to get shorter studs, different lug nuts, but it's a bummer because I wanted to see this thing on the ground. I think I'm gonna do something really silly and lower it. I'm not gonna roll it around. I'm gonna take this wheel off. I just wanna see. That is killer. That is sick. A bit lower on the ride height. I think it could use a spacer, to be honest. And also I need to start prepping these fenders, getting the fitment just right. A lot of these holes don't really match up, which are expected, but what is good is that it's actually sitting on the car and it's not going. This one right here is off by like 1.5 inches. This guy is broken. This doesn't really line up. These don't really line up, but that's just the name of the game when it comes to fiberglass fenders. I need to figure out this fitment situation, whether or not I want to run a spacer or put a fatter tire on it. I was told by my tire shop that if I didn't drive on these, it'll be fine. I can switch them out. I just got to pay a little bit extra. I really like the way the Indy 500 tires look in the back. I don't know, guys. What do you think? I think like a bit of a spacer. Remember, we're not going for a stance look. We're going for more of like an old school Japanese race car type beat.
For those of you who have been following my previous videos, the reason I haven't posted an update for the driver's side rocker panel is because I'm doing such a horrendously bad job that I need to now buy an entire parts car. So stay tuned for that because I'm miserable. Alright, I'm here at U-Haul picking up a trailer, but what for? Alright, looks like we're about to pull up. We got the old squishy parts car loaded up. The big, beautiful beast. And we have the shipbox part 2. The rockers are totally straight. The quarter panel is totally straight. I feel like I can use some of these seals too. They look nice. I've decided that I'm going to section off the entire rocker panel from the parts car as opposed to trying to line up all of these edges here. Because the way I was doing it before, I would have this, and then I'd have to weld it there and there. And then I was an absolute dumbass and cut this way too short because I was stressed and I was late for a work meeting. It would have been this, and then I'd have to fill that gap. And remember, I had a little square, so it would have been like... It would have just sucked. It would have looked so bad. So the reason I didn't cut it at the spot welds where like this pinches at the bottom is because it is annihilated. This parts car was dragged across the ground without suspension, so it really wasn't salvageable. So I figured I'd cut it here, and then I made too many cuts and it just ended up being a disaster. So what I've been doing is I've been using a spot weld cutter. It looks something like this, and guys, it is incredible. It is so awesome to have the right tools to do a job. So right now I'm just finding a good place to cut it. I'm going to be cutting below this edge because all of these parts up here are welded, and I was able to see that by looking at the first donor rocker that I bought. So on my build car, this is where we have marked to cut, and you can see there's an open gap in between, whereas the further you get up here, the metal is much more sandwiched together. You can see it here too. Just got to make sure we don't dig into this metal beneath.
All right, we got the door off the donor car. We have the cut marked. This random dog just showed up and he's chill as hell. What's up, player? You wanna get in the 240? Check it out. Oh, rat's nest. Oh my God, it took forever. So from the factory, the quarter panel is placed after the rocker panel. So this would have run underneath and this would have been laid on top. With me cutting here, I've severed the connection where it would go underneath, thus losing some strength. What I'm gonna do to fix that is put a metal plate underneath here and spot weld it in, and then lay this on top and have a nice long bead of weld run. Also, I'm gonna be putting a backing plate on this too and spot welding it in. In other news, when I use the hydraulic ram to push this section of the rocker and the quarter back out, you can see the long hair fiberglass that I applied here is no longer really needed because we have the correct depth of the panel now. So I'm gonna feather this back out because back here is just metal, which is the tiniest little bit of long hair. Finding a mobile welder that can line up with my pretty sporadic schedule has been difficult, and it can be pretty costly. So, we got a Harbor Freight MIG welder, ground down this piece here, made a gap similar to what I'll be welding, so let's see how it goes. You can sort of see the progression in my welding, like this is hot garbage, but I did some of these. This one I think is the best one. It looks like it has good penetration. It's not sticking up from the surface too much. I am so happy I bought a welder. It's just so cool. It feels like a superpower being able to like join things together permanently. No one man should have all that power. Good morning. Before I tack this all into place, there are some holes that I need to address that were drilled for side skirts. I got the rocker panel off. Now I'm gonna clean it up, grind the rust away. I got the inside of the rocker panel cleaned up. All the rust is gone and it's got some weld through primer on it. Took some same gauge sheet metal and I'm gonna plug weld it. You know what they say, a grinder and paint makes me the welder I ain't. I'm super stoked. It's so cool that I was able to turn this into that. I love welding. It is so much fun. Whoa. No more Bondo car, no more Bondo car. Yo, everything is sort of loosely put in place. And now it's time to weld the rocker on first and then the quarter. What I'm the most excited about is this area right here was so smushed and caked in fiberglass and Bondo. Like I tried to save it, but it was no use. Like it looked horrible. With the rocker off, you can see these backing tabs that I made. So it's just not butt weld. So these will offer some support. I sprayed down all the openings with cavity wax. This whole surface has been prepped. This is all prepped. I switched up to this weld through primer. Let's see how it works. But all the appropriate holes are drilled for the plug welds. So this is pretty interesting about the quarter panel that I pulled from the parts car. This is actually a replacement panel. So at some point, this car was in a collision and the quarter panel had to be replaced. You can tell that this was a replacement piece because look where it was sectioned before and then welded in. Also, instead of using spot welds at the bottom, unfortunately, they used some sort of adhesive. I don't think this is panel bond just because of how easily it came off. And look, some rust. All right, here's the status update. The rust was a bit worse than I anticipated. I thought it would clean up like this, but I've ground it down. I've hit it with a wire brush. I've hit it with some wheels. I don't want to make it level like this because I feel like the pitting is too severe. Since I've gotten it cleaned up as much as I can, we're going to be using this.
What's up, guys? I know I haven't posted in a while. I've been going through some pretty difficult times. So, let's get it done. Let's keep the ball rolling on this car, and let's make something that we can really be proud of.
Today is the day that I'm installing this quarter panel section on my Nissan S14. My car originally had a ton of damage in the door jamb area as well as the rocker panel. I chose to section it in this way because the repair area will not be visible with the over fenders I'll be installing. I'm using 3M panel bond, stainless steel rivets, and welding in the areas that will be visible even with the over fenders.
I'm also trying to get inside and coat the inside of those rivet holes with some of this panel bond as well, so it's going to have a crazy strong seal.
Even though I could have easily cut and stitch welded this seam, I feel that doubling up the metal and using panel bond and rivets will create a much stronger repair. Also, I'm going to be making a cut to the right of the area for the over fenders, so I don't want to fatigue the metal too much.
So now it's time to weld this up, do the plug welds, and then weld the B-pillar. Alright, this is all stitch welded up. I was using some compressed air on it so that the panel wouldn't get too hot and warp. But it's looking great. The welds don't look too cold. So now it's time to grind it down and see if there's any pinholes. I kind of deformed this piece when I was taking it off the donor car. So what I'm going to do now is take a big clamp and try and sandwich this piece up against it. Oh, that's perfect. Oh, wow. So I just did a ton of sanding and prep, got everything masked off. I look like a little Pikmin with this thing on, but I'm going to be using 2K epoxy primer on just the areas that I put in, like the quarter and the rocker. And the rest of the car is going to get a high build urethane 2K primer. Alright, I ripped through that can of epoxy. I wish I had more. But this is going to be a good base once it dries to start laying a little bit more filler and get everything tightened up. For this back portion, it is solid, doubled up on the metal there. Once all the cuts are made for the over fenders, this section, anything that is going to be covered by the over fender itself, is going to be Linexed, which is a really strong protective coating that they use on truck beds and surprisingly inside the walls of the Pentagon. But it feels good to have a rocker panel that isn't pushed into there and just caked, and it feels nice that all these lines are back here, because even if I decided to keep the quarter panel, right, just knowing that much, it's awful. It's like putting a blanket over a monster in the room. Like, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. If you really think me using enough panel bond to hold up a fucking crane and riveting it and welding it is worse than this, then you're delusional. This piece of metal right here is less than 5 pounds, and the way I secured it, how watertight it is and everything, it's an improvement. I'm not even gonna argue about that. Look what arrived. Can you guess what it is? Might have something to do with that shit show back there.
Oh yeah.
These are charge speed 50mm over fenders for my S14. Apparently, in terms of fitment and quality, charge speed is the best you can get for these cars. And look what else I got on. The BN Sports plus 30mm front fenders. These were a hassle to get on. I really had to wrestle with them and just say to myself, if they break, they break. If they crack, they crack. I can fix it, but it has to get on. They got on, and the fitment is phenomenal with the door. I don't have any clearance issues. The door gap is incredible. It is great. Lines up, everything's good. And if you look inside, it is all sealed up as well. I still need to treat the backside of this weld with some Pro 15 and probably all across and empty a can of cavity wax in there. Just put these in there. I got so lucky with the door fitting. Like, if I put in all that work and I put the door on and it didn't line up. As for this guy, I have the seam that I welded fiberglassed over. The reason I have this taped up the way I do is even though I have a really good seal with the panel bond where the panels overlap, I'm going to be doing a 2-part heavy-bodied seam sealer and then going across, making it look a bit cleaner and having some more protection from any water intrusion. So let's go ahead and get these over fenders on and cover up this mess. I gotta agree, the fitment and the quality of this is insane. So much better than the BM. By leagues. Like, this fitment is beautiful. Despite me saying over and over and over and over and over again that I'm running over fenders, people were like, that repair is gonna be visible. You shouldn't have done that. You're gonna be able to see the seam. No, you can't. It's literally under a whole nother panel. Oh my God. For those of y'all just beginning to follow, I put some nice meaty tires on these rare SSR wheels. So we're not going for a stance look, we're going for something a little bit more race car. Let's go ahead and get this side on. So, a big problem that people can have sometimes with over fenders is alignment with the gas cap area. So let's put this side on and see how it looks. I can already tell you it's gonna be a lot cooler once I put this on. Just because we have the wheel set up, and you guys are gonna see what I mean by I'm definitely gonna need to run a spacer. Somebody's doing a burnout. Yes, sir. It looks amazing. It looks amazing. Finally, we're beginning to do cool stuff to this car and not just hacking away at you know, well, still really important stuff, but it feels good to start doing the fun stuff too. Up front looks good. In the back, however, I can see it cracked. That's fine, it's fixable. It's just this segment right here, it looks like the tolerance of the door is in fact too narrow. Because this is either a door tolerance problem from my repair, which is very likely, or this is a side skirt problem, which it also could be. So let's go ahead and grab this one and see if the problem applies to the other side. Well, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is both sides are off for the side skirts, which is a manufacturing issue. The good news is that the tolerance in my door isn't causing the problem too much. So I know that it could either be a combination of the things, but it's not leaning too much on the door tolerance, the gap. Here's a closer look at our issue. I love how it goes into the door jamb, but yeah, so I'm gonna file both ends. I'm gonna file this little lip down a little bit. I'm gonna file this lip down a little bit and see if it can slide snugly into place. Yeah, I
don't see it happening, guys. Alright, I have this jaunt marked right here. I'm going to be making a cut and removing this piece. Yeah, I'm not happy about the fitment of these. It's just... So, this is the plan. I don't care about mismatching brands on a car. A lot of people are like, yo man, you gotta have, you know, Origin side skirts and Origin blah 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 blah. Sort of like people who are like, yo, are you wearing Nike socks with Adidas? I could give two shits. I don't care. So what we're gonna be doing is I already placed an order just now for KBG side skirts, which should be really useful because they're flexible, they're super durable. I have my fingers crossed that the rear bumper and the front bumper fit correctly. If not, I'm gonna be pretty pissed off because, yeah. Let's try and address the fitment issue for the back. I really think that these wheels can fill out these over fenders more. So we got a package from good old Z1 Motorsports. Please sponsor me. I'm tired of spending money. Covered my address so you perverts don't try and have sex with me. Some spacers. 25 millimeter. I know they're big, but they're good quality. Oh, those are chunky. And we got these lug nuts, which should hopefully fit because I've had problems not being able to install the center cap in the wheel. So here's the dealio. So the lug nuts before wouldn't allow me to put this little dish in, which is honestly my favorite part of the design. Let's see if the cap goes on. Fingers crossed, but I think it will. Oh. That's sick. I love that. Let's see it on the ground. I mean, it looks meaty. It's the look I'm going for, but I don't know. I think these spacers are maybe just 5 millimeters too wide. What do you guys think I should do? Because I do like the lip on this and I would still like it to have at least that much. This is a 25 millimeter spacer. I think if I went with 20, we'd be in a better place. So what do you guys think I should do? Should I run a 20 millimeter spacer, maybe something even a little bit less? Because I love the way it looks, but also I don't want too much negative camber, and I definitely don't want to thin out the over fenders too much. Alright, I just pulled the spacer off and installed the center cap, and honestly, I'm feeling like the spacer choice I could use should be a lot more conservative. Because I do enjoy the lip on that. Perhaps maybe a 10 millimeter spacer. I'm open to all suggestions, guys. Let's solve this problem here because I'm not too upset with the way it looks because the tire is pretty thick. Let's take a look from the back too as well. It's time to install the Origin stylish rear bumper on my Nissan S14. The side skirts from the same kit fit terribly, even after some cutting. So I ordered a different pair from another company that should be here soon. Let's see if the same problems apply to the rear bumper. Already, even though it does not fit well, it looks good. But here's the problem. This little cutout right here is hitting crash bar from the rear. I can already tell that this is going to be an issue because it just bends way, way back. It's crazy that they mess up these parts so much. I know you got to sort of earn the right. That's what building a car is all about, is navigating these problems. But when they're so consistent, it's just, you know, begs the question, like, are they actually equipped to make these parts? No dice. Shit. So I got it to sit underneath the crash bar by making that cut. But now that I'm looking at it, you see this is the license plate area. This one is raised by about 1/2 inch to 1 inch, so it's just hitting the crash bar. So it's either cut this out and be able to see the crash bar, or cut the crash bar, because it's just not molded correctly. Side skirts don't fit, bumper doesn't fit, and these are like things that require me modifying safety equipment or hacking away at a product, laying fiberglass, because if I clearance this, there's gonna be a hole. It just sucks. All right, so some of you guys were saying that the factory crash bar on these cars does not fit the origin body kits because these are based off of the Japanese model, the Sylvia. Regardless, I'm always gonna be running some sort of safety feature on the back of the car, whether that's a bash bar, like a tubular one, or the factory one, because I don't like living as much as I used to, but I still wanna be alive. I thought the only way to get this thing off was to cut it, but luckily that's not the case. There's 4 bolts that are holding it in that are underneath these rubber covers. So let's go ahead and pull this off and see if that will make the bumper fit. Okay, well that was incredibly easy. Much better, but it still doesn't fit. All right, the bumper's off. I've marked about 1/2 inch where I'm going to be cutting across this lip. That should hopefully resolve some of the issues with the fitment. I'm also going to file this little lip down on this corner on both sides. So making that cut definitely did help a lot. It's now sitting relatively flush, so let's see if we can shave these corners down next. I feel like once I'm able to get this lip down, it should have just enough space to slide under into the wheel well. Well, the bumper is sitting on the car, but it's wavy. It has cracked. This side is a bit better. It's sitting more flush, but it has also developed a large crack. Here's my thought process. This car, I already rarely ever drive because I think it's too nice and I've put so much time and effort and money into it. I'm just scared to damage anything. This car was supposed to be my little shitbox on wheels, and of course I've become emotionally attached throughout this entire process. But I want to be able to thrash it. I want to be able to go through McDonald's drive-thrus with big, thick tires, and I want to be able to hit potholes and have fun. I really think I'm going to go with the KBD kit. For sure. Alright guys, we're out here selling the old body kit. Yes sir.
20, bro?
No, it's supposed to be 800, dog. What are you talking about?
Oh, 20.
I got pounds in this bitch. I got hoes running in and I'm slime in it. I go by young boy and I zip you up from talking shit. These niggas bitch.
Anyway, today we're going to be working on sanding, prepping, getting everything ready for paint. Well, it's time to bid this little shitbox goodbye. I've got all the parts that I needed from it, including the dash. It has served me well, but now it's time for somebody else to pull the innards from it and continue the lifespan of these cheap Japanese economy cars. Oh, that is wild. Yes, it has arrived. My KBD side skirt. This is so crazy that they just arrive like this, just folded up. I can already tell it's got some nice girth to it too, some good thickness. The directions say take them out of the box, leave them out in the sun, and they will, go back to their original shape.
While we wait for these to unfold, I'm gonna go ahead and hang the passenger side door so that we can be able to close it and see if we have good fitment. The door is up, the fender's back on, it's the moment of truth. Yeah, that's sick. They fit. They fit beautifully. Oh man, it looks so good. Once it's properly attached to the car with some rib nuts and hardware, it is gonna look amazing. I'm so happy. I'm so happy I don't have to deal with that origin kit anymore. It just fits. So the big hurdles we gotta cross right now is I need to make the over fender cut, which is a terrifying and daunting task, but I'm actually pretty exciting for it. And also, I know you guys have been saying, please start a YouTube channel, please start a YouTube channel. Well, I am. The first video is gonna be revealing the spoiler that I got for this car, doing some welding on the trunk. We're also gonna be showing the over fender cut in great detail, and getting this body kit pieced together. For all of you guys that have been sticking around since day one, thank you so much. I'm really excited to start this next chapter in my content creator journey. We're about to start seeing a lot of progress on this car and the LS400, so thank you guys. I'll be dropping a link as soon as that first video is up. Oh man, I really wish this S14 had a cool spoiler. That's right. A one-piece JDM Koki wing rep. Alright, so it's not the OEM Koki wing, but I've had such a difficult time finding one. I checked everywhere, my budget was super high, and I just couldn't find one. However, the good news about this is that it's actually a one-piece construction. What I mean by that is the Koki style spoilers that you can get like on eBay, the center section and these two legs of the spoiler are separated and they have to be bolted together. This can lead it to be rickety and the fit and finish is often questionable. I'm not going to be a dillweed and gatekeep where I got it. It's from Andy's Autosport and it's called the Viz Racing Koki spoiler. For a fiberglass rep part, it fits beautifully. The only problem is on this mounting surface here, there's a slight, tiny little gap, but I don't think that's anything that a little bit of a weather seal or a gasket can't fix. But it's not going to be as easy as drilling a couple of holes in this deck lid and mounting it because we still need to deal with the OEM spoiler holes. And that's nothing that some sheet metal and a Harbor Freight welder can't fix. Don't look at that. For those of you guys that watched my last video, you know that I'm starting my YouTube channel, and the first video that's going to be going up is me welding shut the OEM spoiler holes, doing some body work to the trunk and the spoiler, and I'm going to be posting the finished results there with it on the car and everything. The video isn't up yet, but the minute it drops, I'm going to be putting a link in my bio, so in the meantime, make sure to like and follow. Today is the day we install this Koki wing on my Nissan S14. But first, we're gonna have to close these holes left by the OEM spoiler. We're gonna take a body hammer and tap this area down because the hardware that used to hold the OEM spoiler in has raised it up a little bit. Now let's take some scrap sheet metal and cut out some circles to fill those holes. This should be a good start. Now we place this little piece on top, and from the back side we're gonna take a paint marker and draw the area of the shape that we need to cut out. Now that we know the rough shape that we need to cut out, I'm gonna go in with these snips and then touch it up with the Dremel. All right, we got our little doodad in there. You can see that there is a little bit of a gap around the edges. That's good because the weld's gonna be able to get in there, and when we grind it down, it's still gonna have strength. All right. All the holes are welded up. Now it's time to grind everything down and have it looking nice. Right, it's looking good. Now I'm gonna go in with some 40 grit and scuff up this area and the surrounding paint so that when I lay down the short hair fiberglass, it's gonna have a nice surface to adhere to. We got all of our fiberglass laid down. Let's give that about 15 minutes, then we're gonna go in with some heavy grit sandpaper and bring it down and probably add a second coat too. Look what I found. Dude,
You want me to bag her?
Oh, okay, hold up. Round 2. Okay, we got it. Thank you.
The car caught on fire.
There's almond milk everywhere.
Wait a minute. This car's starting to not look as much like doo-doo anymore. It's because I've been working on it. So please, click the link in the bio to watch the full over fender cut video. I put a lot of time into it. I'm starting to focus a lot more on this longer form content. So thank you guys already who have already subscribed and commented. I think you guys are amazing. So check it out. Link in bio. There's a ton of stuff that's been done to this car, and I can't wait to show it to you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Dude, that is perfect! Oh my god.
So we're heading over to my friend James's house. He just got an S14 coupe, and apparently it has started its life just as clapped out as my car, so let's see how we can help him out.
Hey. This thing got slammed by a tree, and he did a great job pulling everything out and filling all the holes that somebody left. They tried to pull the dent out by using screws, and James went ahead and welded it shut. We got some Bondo on and blocked it out, and it looks good. Just a couple little low spots marked there. But right now, we're trying to get this rear window off, and all the right tools are at my house. The biggest thing I've noticed in terms of differences between this car and my S14 is it feels way more solid. My car feels like a Coke can compared to this.
That's how we get shit done.
Yes, sir. It's just so cool that they've been able to figure this out.
According to my calculations, the rest of the KBD body kit just arrived for my S14.
Yo, he's just like me for real.
Crazy.
Alright, so there wasn't a lot of sun over there. This is like the only consistent part of my yard. Hopefully they unfold before the sun goes down. The front bumper's looking pretty good. The rear bumper's a little squishy still, but I have faith. I got my friend George helping me here, and our thought process is to measure this top bit of the side skirt and determine our spacing, because I want the spacing of all the hardware to be consistent across the entire over fender.
About 13 millimeters from each corner. So here are the Pico clips, or fasteners, whatever you want to call them. Gotta stick that in there, let go. Now it's on there. Boing, gonna get me in trouble. That's it. All right, let's keep going. Swag.
George and I have been making quick work, measuring everything. We got perfect distance between all of these and then these down here. So now we're gonna continue that theme all the way across. And then tomorrow, once we get the rib nut setter, drive all the rivets in, install the hardware, and take a good look at our handiwork. These odd little things are called Cleco clamps, and they're what I'm using to temporarily attach the over fender to my S14 as I get it lined up for rivet nuts and hardware. To demonstrate how these work, I have two pieces of metal here with an 1/8 inch hole drilled. You take the clamp, depress it down with the pliers, and you can see the end becomes thinner. Slide it into your two pieces and release, and now they're held firmly together. Whenever you're attaching a wide body kit to your car, Clecos are a phenomenal way to make sure it's not sliding around as you're making your pilot holes for your hardware. So we got the KBD rear bumper mocked up, but because it's polyurethane, it wants to go all over the place. We have our little hole drilled in there with the 6.8 millimeter bit. And we're gonna slide this little riv nut in and get our first hole going. Let's talk about the hardware we're gonna be using to attach our over fenders, rear bumper, and side skirts. Z-Spec Design was nice enough to send me over this titanium hardware kit. It includes this gorgeous high finish, low profile bolt, a rivet nut, and a neoprene washer to protect my paint. So let me demonstrate how these little riv nuts work. Let's pretend that this little piece of sheet metal is the car itself. So now we have the rivet nut threaded into the riv nut setter. We place it in and then compress. You can see the bottom of it. We're now squishing. There you have it. We now have a threaded hole into the base panel. With our rivet nut in, we can put the material you want to attach on with the hardware, and it just threads right in. And there you go. That's pretty cool. That's on there now. That looks so beautiful too. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, so 5 in the back. Right now, Z-Spec is having a crazy Black Friday sale, so if you need any under the hood or wide body hardware, please check them out. James has been an absolute legend, helping me measure and mark everything up. We've got this side basically all buttoned up. All we're gonna have to do now is pull the Cleco clamps off and then drill and rib nut, and we'll have this thing on. Because I'm terrified, like I said, of anything hitting either the side skirt or the bumper and ripping the over fender apart, I've decided to cut along here. You can see we've already scored right here. Now we're gonna go ahead and score this part. Because it's a lot harder to add fiberglass than it is to remove it, I like to start my cut beneath and with the wheel move up till I get to the tape line. I don't like starting right at the tape line. God, I wish that were me. I wish that were me, man. Oh my Lord. Oh, what the hell? Look at the sheer girth of this car now. And I haven't even picked up the new wheel spacers for the back, because remember guys, the 25s were just a bit too much. But it is looking so incredible. It is coming together so well. Just absolutely gorgeous. Isn't that right? It looks so good.
What's up, molecules? We're making our way to the front of the car. So before we put the fenders on, let's go ahead and tuck the harness and put these BC coilovers on the S14.
Some of y'all in the comments were saying, those are the worst coilovers ever. They're not bad. It's a good company. They make a solid product. So the nuts that you use to attach the coilovers, they have this sort of serrated edge on the bottom, and it grabbed onto the paint and ripped it. So rather than go absolutely insane, I put a little bit of touch-up paint on there that doesn't match at all, and we're gonna be installing these Koru Works little toppers. So the harness usually sits beneath here, and when you lower the car, it rubs through it. So let's go ahead and drill some holes so we can tuck the harness.
God damn, that was loud as hell, but also look, I nicked it with the drill. So let's get that Rust-Oleum out and paint, because I'm neurotic. We're also gonna paint the holes too, because we don't want any rust. I'm also gonna use it as glue to attach this U-channel trim to the car, so that the harness does not rub through on this metal edge. This little thing right here is the hood latch cable, and we're just gonna use some harness tape to attach it to the harness. And then we're gonna use some zip ties and tie it up above that metal ledge. Snip it a little bit. And look at that, nice and pretty and clean. We got the cable looping through where I think it needs to go. So now it's time to put these coilovers in, baby. I don't know about you guys, but bonswa has been missing. He told me that he was going to look for a rare and exotic type of fruit in my garage wall, but he has not been back. So keep an eye out for him. But let's put these CoreWorks doodads on and oof, that's fire. And also Z-Spec Design sent over some new hardware because they're the OG sponsor. Damn, boy, that should look Gucci flame.
On episode 14 of the S14's restoration, I figured I'd make it super satisfying and throw the front fender and the wheel on. We already got the harness tucked and some undercoating in place. And instead of using this crusty, dusty hardware, we're going to be using this beautiful, shiny titanium hardware from Z-Spec Design. So let's go ahead and throw her on. Gee willikers, mister, this is already looking quite bass boosted. So let's go ahead and tighten all the hardware down. I'm telling you, it's the little things that really set off a build, like the hardware and the trim and the weather stripping. Seeing all that looking new and shiny makes you go, oh baby. And this is a bit of a tight fit in the door jamb, so we're gonna use an Allen key. Oh, next step, this mesh for the fender vents. I don't know how I feel about the mesh. It looks kind of cheap to me, but maybe I'll upgrade it in the future to something else, and I'm open to any suggestions. I'm in love with these charge speed fenders. I had the BN fenders before and they fit like absolute dog water. So let's go ahead and throw these SSR Semi-Pro GT wheels on the front. My rotors are absolutely done. My studs are done, but that's all gonna get replaced. But since I'm running the Z32 brakes in the front, it's gonna need a little bit of a spacer to fit these wheels. And I'm telling you, the tolerance is razor thin. But we're gonna go ahead and tighten everything down because I wanna see how this thing looks on the ground. These faux center locks are so hypey. They say Spirit of Speed on them, which I think is kind of funny, but it's my favorite part of the wheel. I just love 5-spoke wheels. So let's get her on the ground. And it definitely needs to be a bit lower, but it looks incredible. Every day I fall more and more in love with this car. So let's get the body kit on. I set a super tight schedule to get the S14 painted, and it turned out great, but as a result, I forgot to put seam sealer on the passenger side over fender cut. I've done an over fender cut on 3S chassis at this point. This is James's S13. First, I tack everything in place, and then I shine a light from the other side and fill in any pinholes that I see. Then I put Pour 15 and some seam sealer on it. So now we're putting the seam sealer on the S14. Some people, they'll bend the little metal flaps up and just self-tap them in place, which I think is disastrous. But I used this stuff from AutoZone, and it just sucked ass. It went on like drywall putty. So then I proceeded to spend the next 3 hours scraping it all off. I like to use this like precision tape when I'm masking, and then I put the big masking tape over it. You know, it allows you to get a really clean line. Anyway, I used the 3M heavy bodied seam sealer, back to the good old 2-part stuff, and you can see it just goes on so nicely. It's incredibly durable, and it just looks way better. Even though this is gonna be underneath the over fender, I'm neurotic, and I just want everything to look good. But yeah. Time to pull off that tape for the grand reveal. Yes, sir. Look at that jaunt.